Chapter 261, Zheng Hao's Ambition. During this period, the karmic body used to accommodate the feedback from the mountain meditation technique had reached a state of half real and half illusory. If quantified, it was roughly equivalent to half of Li Fan's foundation establishment cultivation. With He Zhenghao's breakthrough to Golden Core, Li Fan received the largest investment return since practicing the mountain meditation technique. The quantity exceeded Li Fan's expectations, and the illusory image of the karmic body transformed into reality after reaching perfect stage foundation establishment. A vivid figure, with clear facial features, sat inside Li Fan's dantian. Li Fan suddenly felt that the karmic body had reached its absorption limit. Just as he felt somewhat regretful, thinking that the remaining feedback cultivation would go to waste, a second karmic body suddenly appeared. It continued until it stored 1/3 of the total amount before finally stopping. It's indeed a 4-law golden core, it can bring such a significant return in cultivation. Li Fan was secretly amazed. After careful sensing, Li Fan had a realization. In addition to the extraordinary power of the 4-law golden core, the inextricable connection between He Zhenghao and me is also an important reason for the amount of feedback this time. One reason is the mountain and river hidden dragon technique, and the other is that I prevented He Zhenghao from meeting a tragic end and essentially saved his life. Combined with my careful protection during his breakthrough. All in all, that's why when he broke through, I received so much feedback. If it were just the mountain and river hidden dragon technique, breaking through to Golden Core would definitely not result in so much cultivation feedback. In the midst of these thoughts, the turbulent fluctuations on He Zhenghao's side gradually calmed down. His breath restrained, he slowly opened his eyes. Congratulations, fellow Taoist, on achieving the 4-law golden core. From now on, your future is boundless, Li Fan said with a smile. He Zhenghao burst into laughter, dispelling the past depression he had been carrying. Then he said seriously, don't be so formal. Half of the credit of my golden core formation belongs to you. Although I have now formed the golden core, fellow Taoist is not far from the breakthrough, and I am only a step ahead. How about we continue to interact as we did before? He Zhenghao gave a lot of face, and Li Fan was very satisfied. The two exchanged compliments for a while. During the conversation, they talked about the palace complex that had risen before. He Zhenghao frowned and said, when I was breaking through, I originally intended to form the golden core with 3 laws. However, when I was sensing the undersea triple fault zones through the formation diagram, I inexplicably perceived that there seemed to be something hidden beneath the seabed. It even resonated and was related to my hidden abyss law. I thought it might be some extraordinary treasure, but I didn't expect it to be a complete ruin. Li Fan chimed in, this ruin didn't reveal its true size until you broke through. It changed to the size of an ordinary cultivation abode and flew away to the east. How about it, fellow Taoist, are you interested in this ruin? He Zhenghao shook his head, if I say I'm not interested, I'd be lying. Unfortunately, even with my current cultivation, a sense of danger arises in my heart when I recall the scene where I faced it head on just now. There are so many opportunities in the world, and there's no need to grab everything you see. It's better to forget about it. Li Fan nodded, fellow Taoist's words make sense. However, in his heart, Li Fan couldn't help but think that after spending time with his daughter, fellow Taoist's actions seemed much more cautious. If he were alone like before, he might have entertained thoughts of going on an adventure. At present, Li Fan didn't bring up this topic again. What are your plans next, fellow Taoist? Li Fan asked. After advancing to Golden Core, there would naturally be adjustments to one's position within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. He Zhenghao hesitated for a moment before answering, if possible, I would like to take advantage of this breakthrough and try to transfer to Tianyu Province. Of course, Tianyu Province is the central homeland of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Even if I am a 4-law golden core cultivator, it's unrealistic to directly transfer there. However, I can gradually plan for it, using other provinces as stepping stones. When I break through to Nascent Soul next time, I'll see if there's an opportunity. In any case, I want to leave this remote Kongyunsi first. Upon hearing this, Li Fan's heart stirred. He Zhenghao had narrowly escaped a destined calamity and recognized his daughter, and his destiny had undergone a mysterious change. Through a series of coincidences, he had the idea of leaving the Kongyunsi spontaneously. In this way, even if Li Fan didn't intervene, he could still escape the calamity of the Crimson Flame. This is another blessing. It seems that even heroes have a hard time resisting a beauty. Li Fan knew why He Zhenghao was so eager to return to Tianyu province and couldn't help but tease him. Fellow Taoist, feel free to do as you please. If you need contribution points to establish connections, don't hesitate to ask. Li Fan smiled and assured him. He Zhenghao, upon hearing this, showed a happy expression. He knew that Li Fan had earned a fortune during the spirit mist grass incident and was quite wealthy. With my previous connections and the foundation of my 4-law golden core, coupled with using a sufficient amount of contributions to pave the way, I might be able to obtain an unexpectedly good position. He secretly thought. Perhaps I won't need to go to Shailan province in this life. After all, it's unfamiliar territory. Let's see if I can hitch a ride with fellow Taoist's good fortune. Li Fan thought to himself. The two returned with their own thoughts. He Zhenghao returned to Luli Island to stabilize his cultivation. Li Fan returned to the Tianshuan mirror. The news of the underwater cultivation abode gradually spread. Many cultivators flew over, attempting to seek opportunities. But after all, by the time the palace complex appeared in the crowd's view, it had shrunk a lot. Therefore, it didn't look very large or valuable, and the number of cultivators willing to chase after it was not that many. If nothing unexpected happened, after dozens of cultivators fell behind, this matter would slowly be forgotten. However, Li Fan wanted the cultivators to explore and find out the secrets within the ruin. How could he allow such a thing to happen? So he decided to stir up some trouble. In the Tianshuan realm, he, as an eyewitness, narrated the incident of the ruin's reappearance. Not long after, it caused a sensation. After all, ancient cultivation abodes and ancient sect ruins were two completely different concepts. Cultivator abodes generally had a limited number of techniques and treasures. But in ancient sect ruins, especially those that had been sealed for countless years and had just reappeared, had countless opportunities. The prosperity of the ancient cultivation world was deeply ingrained in people's minds. Obtaining any cultivation technique at all was already a huge gain. And according to Li Fan's description, the palace complex spanned hundreds of miles and did not seem like an insignificant and weak sect. Thus, the enthusiasm of the cultivators was quickly ignited. Chapter 262, Aiming for the Garrison. One exploration team after another began flying in the direction of the ruins, searching for its whereabouts. Meanwhile, Li Fan remained hidden in the Tianshuan mirror, patiently awaiting the results. 3 months later, there hadn't been significant progress in exploring the ruins, but an excited message arrived from He Zhenghao. Fellow Taoist Li Fan, good news, he exclaimed. After some efforts on my part, I've secured 3 potential positions, each located in different provinces. Fellow Taoist, please offer your advice. Li Fan promptly replied, oh, tell me more. The first one is the leader of the martial hall in Taihua province, He Zhenghao explained. Taihua province is not far from the Kongyun Sea, and it's known for the Taihua mountain range that spans the entire province. The peaks are incredibly numerous, and my cultivation speed there would be much faster than in the Kongyun Sea. The second one is a counselor of the formation hall in Qingwei province, he continued. Although it's still far from Tianyu province, it's much closer compared to the Kongyun Sea. The third one is city guardian in Tianyan province, He Zhenghao concluded. This province is not far from the western part of the Tianyu province, and therefore competition for the position is intense. It's only a position shift from island guardian to city guardian, but the advantage is that being closer to the headquarters might make promotions easier. He Zhenghao slowly revealed the results of his efforts over this period. Tianyan province. Li Fan pondered for a moment and replied, let's not rush to make a decision. I have acquaintances in Tianyan province, I'll inquire further to see if there are additional opportunities. He Zhenghao was surprised, you have connections in Tianyan province. Li Fan smiled faintly, I can't guarantee anything. Let's give it a try, wait for my message, fellow Taoist. He Zhenghao agreed repeatedly. Li Fan then contacted the oracle, explaining the situation. Do you have any channels, senior? He inquired. The oracle simply replied, I'll ask for you. After that, there was no further response. Li Fan wasn't in a hurry and patiently waited. Half a day later, a cultivator named Taoist Jingxuan from Tianyan province requested to add Li Fan as a friend. Li Fan quickly accepted. Jingxuan's hearty voice echoed, haha, are you Li Fan? I heard from the oracle that you have a friend interested in taking a position in our Tianyan province. A 4-law golden core cultivator, impressive. Young talents are indeed formidable. In that case, could you ask if he's interested in joining our Tianyan province garrison? Jingxuan continued. Because of the large-scale battle a few years ago, there are still some vacant positions that haven't been filled. Li Fan was slightly taken aback and asked, Senior Jingxuan, could you explain what the garrison is? Jingxuan was surprised that Li Fan didn't know, but he quickly understood after thinking about Li Fan's remote origin. He explained, the garrison is an organization unique to the core areas of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. It directly reports to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters, and is mainly responsible for suppressing criminals and maintaining stability in these regions. In critical moments, it may also follow emergency orders to go to other provinces for battle. Once Jingxuan clarified, Li Fan understood. Essentially, it was similar to the garrison battalion stationed outside Xuanjing City in Grand Zone that only took orders from Li Fan and guarded the capital. It should be considered a key position. However, it seems like there will be frequent battles. I wonder if He Zhenghao is willing to accept it with his nature nowadays, Li Fan contemplated for a moment. After chatting with Jingxuan, Li Fan contacted He Zhenghao again and explained the situation. The garrison, He Zhenghao was a bit shocked. Having spent some time in Tianyu province when he was young, he naturally understood what the garrison was. Just like the Law Enforcement Hall, it was a branch that directly took orders from the 10,000 Immortal Alliance's headquarters. Generally speaking, the members of the garrison were half a level higher in status than the cultivators of the other departments. Li Fan, you're truly unfathomable to actually secure such a position, He Zhenghao exclaimed. Though it's a bit dangerous, The image of a graceful figure flashed in his mind. Without further hesitation, he agreed. After learning about He Zhenghao's decision, Li Fan informed Jingxuan of the news. Good. Jingxuan was delighted. Ask your friend to come to our Tianyan province first and serve as a city guardian. After 3 years of service, accumulating some qualifications, I will use my connections to transfer him to the garrison. Next, Jingxuan carefully explained some important before ending the communication. Li Fan conveyed all the details to He Zhenghao, who listened attentively before busying himself with his future. Li Fan, on the other hand, transferred 100,000 contribution points to both the Oracle and Jingxuan as an expression of gratitude. Of course, he recorded this debt on He Zhenghao's account. In Tianyan province, the Oracle was slightly stunned upon receiving the contribution points, chuckling silently. Jingxuan quickly sent a message, inquiring, Old Oracle, did you receive that Junior Li's contribution points? 100,000 contribution points. I remember he's only at the foundation establishment stage, right? Quite generous. The Oracle replied with a smile, well, he's much more generous than when we were at the foundation establishment stage. I only passed on a message and received the same reward as you, Jingxuan. Are you not angry? Jingxuan laughed heartily, ha ha ha, this junior is a little interesting. Yes, I find him more pleasing than that old man Guangwu, Jingxuan continued. After accepting gifts from others, you should do your best for them. Don't mess things up. It doesn't matter to you, but if my reputation is tarnished, hee. Mess things up, are you looking down on me? Jingxuan snorted coldly and fell silent. Time passed. 3 months later, He Zhenghao's assignment order came through without any issues. He became the city guardian of Guang'an City in Tianyan province. For this, a total of 80,000 contribution points were spent. Naturally, they were all borrowed from Li Fan. Anyway, He Zhenghao was already in debt and a little more made no difference. Furthermore, Li Fan was generous and lent as much as needed. Before leaving, He Zhenghao swore. Once he established himself in Tianyan province, he would try to arrange for Li Fan to join him. Li Fan didn't say much and just patted He Zhenghao on the shoulder. After He Zhenghao's departure, Li Fan stayed hidden in the Tianshuan mirror all day, not going out and focusing on cultivation. Soon, the 23rd year arrived. The ruins were finally discovered. They had landed in a swamp in the central part of Jushan province. As cultivators explored the ruins, the origin of this place was also uncovered. Ancient Immortal Sect, Chaoyuan Sect. Although not as famous as the Taishang or Great Tao sects, whose reputations remained known even after thousands of years, before the Great Calamity, it was also considered a renowned sect. Based on past experiences of exploring sect ruins, there would undoubtedly be abundant treasures inside. The news attracted many cultivators to travel to Jushan province, further destabilizing the already chaotic region. Even cultivators from the Five Elders Association, with minimal disguise, brazenly joined the expedition to explore the ruins. The audacity of their actions was evident. The weak control of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance over Jushan Province could be seen. Originally, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had no intention of intervening in the normal exploration of ruins, but at this moment, news arrived that infuriated the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. A soul transformation cultivator from the Five Elders Association named Luo Shi not only openly revealed his identity but also injured and killed many 10,000 Immortals Alliance exploration members. After obtaining something valuable from deep within the ruins, he left triumphantly. Being so arrogant on their turf. It was like a slap in the face. However, confusion followed. Such behavior had an obvious provocative intent. Could there be a conspiracy? Were the Five Elders Association going to start another war? Regardless, face must not be lost. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance swiftly dispatched several soul transformation cultivators to Jushan Province and issued a solemn warning. All cultivators from the Five Elders Association were prohibited from entering Jushan Province. If they dare to come, they will die. Chapter 263, Attempting to Achieve Immortality. At first, some skeptical cultivators ignored the warning from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. They continued to act recklessly, relying on their concealment techniques to secretly infiltrate Jushan Province. However, the soul transformation experts assigned to suppress them came well prepared. They joined hands to set up a grand formation that enveloped the entire Jushan Province. The purpose of this formation was not to kill but instead to automatically mark the locations of Five Elders Association cultivators within its range. The principle behind it was unclear, but once a Five Elders Association cultivator stepped into the formation, a towering pillar of light would lock onto them. Even if they used a concealment technique, they were as clearly visible as a candle in the dark. Now, there was no need for the soul transformation cultivators to take action. The infiltrators were torn to pieces by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators who swarmed around them. This kind of formation, capable of identifying the identities of both sides' cultivators, had never appeared before. It hadn't even made an appearance in the previous battle in Tianling Province. Its debut this time was extraordinary. The Five Elders Association's side seemed to be momentarily unable to find a way to crack it and wasn't ready for another full-scale war. Therefore, they temporarily halted their infiltration and did not take more aggressive measures. However, it seemed they had not completely abandoned their intention to explore the ruins of the Chaoyuan sect. Gathering their forces at the border of Jushan Province, they took a stance of potentially invading at any moment. On the front lines, both sides were at a tense standoff, and a major battle was imminent. Meanwhile, in the secure rear of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, the motivation behind the actions of the Five Elders Association became a hot topic among cultivators. According to common sense, both sides had recently concluded a major battle, resulting in countless casualties. During this time, there should have been a period of peace for rest and recovery. However, the Five Elders Association acted contrary to the norm, constantly provoking the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. What was their purpose? Moreover, the last major battle was due to the rare five-element subworlds. This time, why were they mobilizing? After discussions and analyses, most cultivators generally believed there were only two possibilities. One was that there was indeed a precious treasure inside the ruins of the Chaoyuan sect. The Five Elders Association was willing to go to war with the 10,000 Immortals Alliance to obtain it. The second reason was that Jushan Province was merely a decoy for the Five Elders Association. Taking advantage of the opportunity presented by the emergence of the ruins, they created a big disturbance to divert the attention of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Their true goal was elsewhere. Regardless of the purpose, it was certain that the Five Elders Association harbored malicious intentions. For the vast majority of Qi condensation and foundation establishment cultivators, war seemed a bit distant to them. After all, the last large-scale war in Tianling Province did not see them taking the field at all. Furthermore, after the war, the benefits brought by the discounted cultivation techniques were substantial. So, most people watched the unfolding events with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation, paying close attention to the further developments. Chaoyuan sect. In the Kongyun Sea, the situation had not yet reached the point where formation repairers needed to patrol. Li Fan remained in the Tianshuan Mirror, collecting and reviewing information about the new events. Judging by the accounts of cultivators who have successfully explored the Chaoyuan sect ruins and safely returned, it seems like an ordinary ruin. Apart from being larger in scale, there doesn't appear to be anything special. The only strange thing is that the interior of the ruins is remarkably smooth, showing no signs of battle or remnants of fallen cultivators. Even most of the restrictions inside the sect's ruins are in an inactive state. It's as if, at a certain moment, all Chaoyuan sect cultivators disappeared. The sect then traveled through 1,000 years and arrived directly in the present. Reportedly, some soul transformation cultivators from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had also explored it before. Unfortunately, it seems they couldn't figure out anything peculiar. It's a bit interesting. Li Fan's eyes flashed. Discerning individuals could see that there was something unusual about the Chaoyuan sect. However, even soul transformation cultivators couldn't understand it thoroughly, indicating exceptionally high danger. I hope in this lifetime, there will be results before I return to the anchor point. I can seize the opportunity in the next life. Just as Li Fan was quietly awaiting the next development, the clone received an urgent message from Zhao Shuyuan. It turns out he couldn't wait any longer and wanted to hold the first auction for the Minor Medicine King Cauldron. I've been planning for so long, the money that should be spent has been spent. Seeing that war is about to break out again, I really can't wait any longer. Zhao Shuyuan complained. Although the cultivators may still not be so affluent now, it's better than dragging on for a few more years without making a profit and being unable to return the capital. The early promotion of the Minor Medicine King Cauldron has cost me too much. If we wait any longer, the funds will be in trouble. While the financial difficulty might not be entirely true, Li Fan agreed with his decision. If he didn't sell the Minor Medicine King Cauldron now, when the true Medicine King Cauldron appeared, these small cauldrons wouldn't be priceless commodities anymore, they would mean big trouble. Even Zhao Shuyuan might not fare well then. The venue for the first auction is set in Tianhua Province. It's located in the core of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, and is connected to 8 other provinces, including Tianyu Province. Cultivators in the province are generally wealthier than those in other states. Would fellow Taoists like to come and observe? Zhao Shuyuan attached great importance to the person who formulated the business plan and extended an invitation to Li Fan. Li Fan smiled and declined. For such a grand occasion, as a mere foundation establishment cultivator, I won't go there to join the excitement. I wish fellow Taoist every success in establishing the reputation of the Minor Medicine King Cauldron. Although Zhao Shuyuan was a bit regretful, he couldn't force it. By the way, fellow Taoist Zhao, what do you think of the recent movements of the Five Elders Association? Li Fan suddenly asked. The Five Elders Association? Zhao Shuyuan was initially stunned, then tilted his head, seemingly receiving some information. After a moment, he replied, in my personal judgment, this time, the Five Elders Association is probing opportunistically. Probing? How do you explain that? Li Fan became interested and asked. Zhao Shuyuan lowered his voice, let's keep this private, fellow Taoist must not spread this around. I have a special source of information. A certain Tao integration cultivator in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance wants to defy the principles of heaven to achieve longevity immortal and establish their immortality. This immortal sage has a good relationship with other Tao integration powerhouses in the Alliance and reportedly has invited many helpers. I guess the Five Elders Association got wind of it somewhere and wants to apply some pressure to test if the information is true. The upheaval in Jushan province was just the appetizer. If everything goes as expected, the bigger part is yet to come. When Li Fan first heard what Zhao Shuyuan said, he thought the Tao integration cultivator he mentioned was the Blue Feather Immortal Sage from Taoyuan province. However, the subsequent descriptions were clearly inconsistent with Blue Feather. Another one aiming for immortality. Li Fan's interest was piqued. However, a doubt arose in his mind. This immortal wants to break through, yet they're also seeking help from friends. Aren't they afraid? Li Fan didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning was already clear. Chapter 264. Longevity Immortal Heavenly Sovereign Deception. Zhao Shuyuan smiled. It's quite normal for fellow Taoists to have such thoughts. After all, we cultivators, from foundation establishment to Tao integration, need to plunder the heavens and earth and compete for resources. In a sense, all cultivators are potential competitors to each other. But, Zhao Shuyuan's tone suddenly gained some mysterious meaning. Longevity Immortal realm is different. To achieve longevity immortal, one must defy the principles of heaven and earth. The principles of heaven and earth are the Tao of the heavens. Defying the principles of heaven and earth is the Tao of cultivators. By following the Tao of cultivators and defying the Tao of the heavens, one can achieve longevity immortal. Cultivators who can reach the peak of Tao integration and glimpse into the longevity immortal realm each have their own unique Tao. Because before reaching this realm, they have already destroyed all potential competitors. Zhao Shuyuan calmly described the bloody path of ascension. Tao integration cultivators, with different paths, no longer have conflicts of interest. Observing the process of other Tao integration cultivators defying the principles of heaven and earth, whether successful or not, will be beneficial to oneself. That's why they agree to assist. A hint of mockery appeared on Zhao Shuyuan's dark face. Otherwise, if you want to mobilize multiple Tao integration cultivators, you would have to sacrifice a lot. Li Fan carefully pondered Zhao Shuyuan's words and, after a moment, seemed to have a realization. From Qi condensation to Tao integration, the required mediums for advancement are, in order, spiritual energy, heavenly treasure, law, subworld, marrow, and heavenly spirit. As a cultivator's realm slowly improves, the restraining forces of heaven and earth during advancement become increasingly formidable. In the early stages of cultivation, since the restraining forces of heaven and earth are not that strong, they can be almost ignored. The main conflicts manifest in battles between cultivators. But when the cultivation reaches the Tao integration realm, one not only has to compete with other cultivators for the chance to sacrifice the heavenly spirit but also has to contend with the heavenly spirit itself. The situation changes. Finally, when reaching the longevity immortal realm, the conflicts between cultivators become almost negligible. It transforms into a struggle between cultivators and the heavens and earth. Although the realms of Tao integration and longevity immortal were still far away for Li Fan, they were the ultimate goals of cultivation in this realm. For planning the future path of his cultivation, Zhao Shuyuan's words provided valuable guidance. The value of this conversation was not below 100,000 contribution points. After contemplating for a while, Li Fan couldn't help but ask the long-buried question in his heart, I wonder, what realm has fellow Taoist Zhao reached? You seem to be well informed about the secrets of Tao integration and longevity immortal. Zhao Shuyuan did not answer, only smiled and said, if there's fate, fellow Taoist will know in the future. Li Fan nodded and did not press for more information. After ending the communication, Li Fan began to contemplate the information provided by Zhao Shuyuan. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance may have a new longevity immortal, so it has prompted the probing of the Five Elders Association. This is also something that didn't happen in the previous life. Could it be a variable caused by the battle in Tianling province? It makes sense. After all, this war involved too much. In the early stages, there were more than a dozen Tao integration powerhouses fighting each other. Between life and death, one might gain insights. It's normal. According to Zhao Shuyuan's judgment, to test the truth of the information, the Five Elders Association will undoubtedly take more aggressive measures next. The purpose should be to force Tao integration cultivators to reveal themselves. It seems that the overall number of Tao integration cultivators on both sides won't be too many. At the very least, the sudden disappearance of multiple Tao integration cultivators would be too obvious. Before the storm settles, it's better to be wise and not go out. Li Fan contemplated to himself. In the following period, it unfolded as Zhao Shuyuan predicted. Without warning, the Five Elders Association launched a full-scale probe against the 10,000 Immortals Alliance on all fronts. In the regions close to the Five Elders Association, almost all the provinces encountered Tao integration cultivators crossing over, causing anomalies that covered the entire province and flaunting their power. Li Fan, who was attentively monitoring the discussions among cultivators in the Tianshuan mirror, roughly understood the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's response before many messages disappeared. Apart from a few provinces where Tao integration cultivators promptly appeared for countermeasures, the majority of provinces exhibited an unusual silence. They only activated protective formations across the entire province. Faced with such provocation, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance did not declare a state of readiness, again. They strictly ordered all provinces to activate the defensive formations, refrain from initiating hostilities, and hold back from starting a war. This invisible display of weakness seemed to validate the correctness of that piece of information. Whether it was aimed at obstructing the birth of a new longevity immortal heavenly sovereign or taking advantage of the rare internal vulnerability of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance to expand their territory, the Five Elders Association decisively launched another war. However, it couldn't even be called a war. Because just a few days later, after all 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators entered a state of war, most cultivators hadn't even seen the shadow of the enemy. The recently ignited smoke of war suddenly dissipated inexplicably. The Five Elders Association lowered their flags and drums, never mentioning the word, war, again. This inexplicable event not only left Li Fan bewildered but also surprised Zhao Shuyuan. And shortly afterward, under the official fanfare of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, everyone understood what had happened in these few days. The original war plan of the Five Elders Association should have been like this. Dao integration powerhouses would infiltrate the territory of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, search for the longevity immortal heavenly sovereign who was defying the principles of heaven and earth, and disrupt his ascension process. The remaining cultivators, led by soul transformation powerhouses, would launch a fierce attack on the entire border of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. This was to provide cover for the Dao integration strike team. They would focus on attacking the regions without Dao integration cultivators. It was best to take advantage of this rare opportunity to expand their territory. The plan was beautiful, however, reality was cruel. A total of 9 Dao integration powerhouses secretly entered the territory of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Undoubtedly, they were an extremely powerful force. They reached the heartland, Tianyu province, without being noticed by anyone. Perhaps they were secretly rejoicing in their hearts that the plan was proceeding so smoothly. However, just when they all relaxed, a grand formation activated, and mysterious light descended from the sky, suddenly enveloping them. Dao integration cultivators from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, twice their number, suddenly appeared around them. This included the Dao integration immortal sages who were supposedly invited to assist in defying the principles of heaven and earth, all present, watching with mocking expressions. At this point, the 9 Dao integration cultivators from the Five Elders Association would obviously understand. Everything, from the beginning, was a trap to lure the enemy deep inside. The claims about Dao integration cultivators about to break through and ascend to longevity immortal were all false. The purpose was to lure the Dao integration immortal sages of the Five Elders Association to come for sabotage. Then, capture them all in one fell swoop, tearing off a piece of flesh from the Five Elders Association. TN. Title of Longevity Immortals changed from Immortal Venerable greater than Heavenly Sovereign to avoid redundancy. Chapter 265, Schemes Against the Enemy. The exact number of casualties of the Five Elders Association's 9 Dao integration experts was not disclosed by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance in their announcement. However, the losses were undoubtedly severe. Otherwise, the recently arrogant Five Elders Association wouldn't have suddenly shrunk its forces, changing from offense to defense. In this event, the only Dao integration cultivators known to have died belonged to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. However, he did not die in battle, he was executed. Because he was a spy. He was a spy deeply embedded within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance for nearly a millennium, and no one had ever suspected him. He held a distinguished position, and until his identity was exposed, no one would suspect him as a spy for the Five Elders Association. Immortal Sage Zaichang, who presided over the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's martial hall in Tianyu province, was highly revered. It was precisely because of this Immortal Sage Zaichang's secret information transmission that the Five Elders Association, after some probing and verification, became convinced of the news that a Dao integration cultivator was about to be promoted to longevity immortal. Thus, they made the strategic move to dispatch 9 Dao integration cultivators deep into enemy territory, an initiative with extremely high risks. Because this was not the first time. In previous actions, the Five Elders Association had tasted the sweetness of success. The last time they did something similar was during the surprise attack on the 5 element subworlds. Indeed, at that time, it was also Immortal Sage Zaichang who leaked the information about the 5 element subworlds. His men had received the plea for help from the exploration team, hoping that the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters would send assistance in relocating the 5 element subworlds. This Immortal Sage Zaichang knew better than most in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance about the true value of those subworlds. So, he secretly passed on the information to the Five Elders Association. That's why the Five Elders Association reacted so swiftly, arriving even before the support from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Even with the pursuit team dispatched later by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, consisting of 8 Dao integration experts, the Five Elders Association was well aware of their personnel composition with Immortal Sage Zaichang leaking information. If it weren't for unexpected circumstances, One of the overlooked soul transformation cultivators in the team unexpectedly erupted with combat power comparable to Dao integration, turning the tide in a critical moment. Otherwise, the 8 Dao integration cultivators responsible for pursuit, in all likelihood, would have all perished on the battlefield. Even so, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance suffered significant losses in this incident. Although the 5 Elders Association also incurred some losses, they were entirely acceptable compared to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The only regret was that due to the suddenness of the situation, they didn't have time to mobilize even more personnel. The mission to seize the 5 element subworlds ended in failure. Regardless, the information Immortal Sage Zaichang provided, as the deepest nail of the 5 Elders Association within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, was absolutely reliable. So, even though the act of dispatching 9 Dao integration cultivators deep into enemy territory theoretically carried extremely high risks, the 5 Elders Association still went through with it. Thus, they fell into the trap meticulously woven by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Regarding the mysterious leakage of information about the 5 element subworlds the last time, there had been someone within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance harboring a grudge. The announcement did not reveal this cultivator's name. He was only referred to as Solitary Hero. A good friend of Solitary Hero was one of the 8 Dao integration cultivators involved in the pursuit. With his friend's tragic death, coupled with his sense of responsibility, Solitary Hero vowed to uncover the spy deeply embedded within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters. After the conclusion of the Tianling Province War, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance initiated an internal investigation program. Solitary Hero was responsible for this task. Unfortunately, Immortal Sage Zaichang's status was too high and was too well hidden. Even with some suspicions, without substantial evidence, there was no way to take any action against him. The final outcome had to be left unresolved. Nevertheless, Solitary Hero did not give up easily. A bold plan took shape in his mind. To speak frankly, it was quite simple. Nothing more than luring the snake out of its hole. However, this plan involved too much. A slight oversight could lead to complete failure. Solitary Hero initially hesitated a bit, but he ultimately withstood the pressure and slowly laid out the strategy. Gradually, news that there was a Dao integration cultivator within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance about to achieve longevity immortal started quietly circulating among the higher-ups of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Moreover, many Dao integration cultivators received invitations to assist and were nowhere to be found. Naturally, Immortal Sage Zaichang also got wind of this news. However, Zaichang couldn't guarantee the accuracy of the information. Additionally, having been investigated recently and not completely cleared of suspicion, Zaichang had no intention of personally risking himself to verify the authenticity of this piece of news. However, this matter was too significant. If the 10,000 Immortals Alliance were to have a new longevity immortal. After much hesitation, Zaichang still transmitted this information to the 5 Elders Association. However, he let the 5 Elders Association verify it themselves. The 5 Elders Association, upon receiving the news, attached great importance to it. Coincidentally, a sect ruin suddenly appeared near the border of the Jushan province, attracting the attention of numerous cultivators. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 5 Elders Association dispatched a soul transformation cultivator to provocatively probe the situation. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance's response was quite peculiar. While issuing tough words, delivering solemn warnings, and threatening to kill any who came, they only dispatched a few soul transformation cultivators. Since when could soul transformation cultivators hold the line? Where were the many Dao integration cultivators of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance at the moment? It should be noted that without any Dao integration cultivators, the soul transformation cultivator Luoshi would be difficult to stop. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance should be aware of this. Could it be that after receiving a resounding slap, they would just endure it? What happened? The so-called solemn warning. In the eyes of the 5 Elders Association, it was a bluff. Rather than being intended for the 5 Elders Association, it seemed more like it was meant for the internal members of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. To pacify and reassure the people. It seemed that Immortal Sage Zaichang's conveyed message was likely true. Within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, there really was a Dao integration cultivator who was about to carry out the act of defying the laws of heaven and earth. Even multiple divinations and calculations had confirmed the veracity of this matter. The 5 Elders Association suddenly became anxious. No wonder the 10,000 Immortals Alliance was willing to endure humiliation compared to a newly ascended longevity immortal. Let alone a bit of face, they might even accept losing a few territories. Once the ascension was successful, all those lost territories would instantly return. No, it must be stopped. So, the Five Elders Association suddenly declared war. Simultaneously, a team consisting of 9 Dao integration cultivators, based on the information provided by Zaichang, went to Tianyu province to carry out the mission of disrupting the ascension. However, everything turned out to be a trap. Li Fan looked puzzled, repeatedly reading the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's arrogant announcement several times. Finally, he let out a long sigh. Without standing at that height, it's impossible to understand the whole picture of what's happening. As for what exactly has happened, perhaps only after the conclusion of the matter, looking back on it. Can I learn a thing or two? Chapter 266, Zhang Shintong. Regardless of the circumstances, the plan of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance ultimately succeeded. Not only did they kill several Dao integration cultivators from the Five Elders Association, but they also successfully exposed the spy, Immortal Sage Zaichang. It was an extremely effective plan in striking back after previous losses. On the other hand, the Five Elders Association, faced with this bloody reality, could only admit defeat. The battles in Tianling province and the ambush in Tianyu province resulted in each side winning one. The losses of the Dao integration powerhouses would take time to slowly recover. With both the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Association suffering, it could be foreseen that a period of extended peace was on the horizon. For the majority of cultivators, this was a good thing. As the clouds of war gradually dispersed, Zhao Shuyuan's Minor Medicine King Cauldron auction, which was postponed due to the war, was finally held at the end of the 23rd year. Li Fan didn't attend the event. However, it was said that the results were somewhat unsatisfactory. In the first batch, a total of 4 small cauldrons were sold. The selling prices for each cauldron were generally only around a few 100,000 contribution points. Obviously, there were doubts about whether the meteor that fell from the sky was the true Medicine King Cauldron. Even though Zhao Shuyuan followed Li Fan's strategy, creating a buzz everywhere, the effect was minimal. Those cultivators willing to spend a large amount of contribution points to gamble on a prosperous future were, after all, in the minority. Most cultivators followed the principle of not releasing the eagle without seeing the rabbit. Despite the unsuccessful start, Zhao Shuyuan wasn't discouraged. On the one hand, he still had a considerable inventory. On the other hand, even if the subsequent small cauldrons were sold at this price, he would still make a stable profit. I do business without greed. As long as there's profit, it's good enough. That's what Zhao Shuyuan said. Li Fan just smiled, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. His attention returned to his original body. The group of people who had been calmly waiting on the deserted island for more than 10 years had already grown into adults. They were starting to get a bit restless. Especially Su Xiaomei, who occasionally sneaked by herself. However, the mysterious disappearance of Yi Feipeng had always been a shadow pressing on their hearts. This made them reluctant to stray too far from the deserted island, as they feared that they would be detected by the cultivators from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan checked the cultivation levels of several individuals. Su Xiaomei, Xiao Heng, and Zhang Haobo were all at the Foundation Establishment Perfection stage. However, there seemed to be some distance to the Golden Core stage for all of them. The Yin sisters had mediocre aptitude in cultivation, only reaching Qi condensation perfection. As for Su Changyu, his cultivation progress was the slowest. He only reached the mid-stage Qi condensation. But his mentality had always been stable, neither arrogant nor impatient. As for the unconscious Yi Feipeng, Li Fan found it a bit unpredictable. Over the past few years, besides absorbing all the wind disaster energy unconsciously, the chubby guy had almost circled the entire sea area by following the undersea currents beneath the Kongyun Sea. During this process, the intensity of the aura on Yi Feipeng's body continued to increase. In theory, it had already surpassed the limit of Foundation establishment. Li Fan estimated that if he erupted with all his strength, an ordinary Golden Core cultivator wouldn't be his opponent. It seemed like the Kongyun Sea was using this unique method to nourish Yi Feipeng. Just the quantity of growth had reached a point where it could ignore the gap between Foundation establishment and Golden Core. Furthermore, the giant beast phantom that occasionally appeared behind Yi Feipeng seemed to become more vivid and robust during this process. It continuously swam around him, occasionally emitting a long roar. It was as if it could come alive at any moment. Li Fan had a strange premonition. The awakening of Yi Feipeng was not far away. So, time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, it came to the end of the 24th year. On this day, Li Fan, who was in seclusion, suddenly received a notification from the Tianquan mirror. In discussing Tao while seated, Zhang Qinmo finally suffered his first defeat. Did that, I am invincible, finally comprehend the method to defeat him? Li Fan couldn't help but feel a bit excited at the thought. Opening discussing Tao while seated, the result surprised Li Fan. The one who defeated Zhang Qinmo was not, I am invincible, but someone else. A cultivator named Zhang Shentong. Moreover, this Zhang Shentong was not a virtual creation but a real cultivator existing in the Xuanwang realm. Zhang Shentong. Li Fan felt incredulous. Li Fan was well aware of Zhang Qinmo's abilities. After revealing his purple core, he could easily slay golden core cultivators as if slaughtering chickens and cattle. How did this Zhang Shentong, who was merely at the foundation establishment level, defeat Zhang Qinmo? With this question in mind, Li Fan opened the replay of the battle. In the void, Zhang Qinmo had a stern expression as he stood with his hands behind his back. Not far away, a white-haired old man in Taoist robes smiled as he looked at him. Please enlighten me, Junior. As soon as Zhang Shentong finished his polite words, his expression suddenly changed. He pointed with his right hand, and a sea of azure light surged above Zhang Qinmo's head. Each strand of light resembled extremely sharp flying swords, constantly stabbing towards Zhang Qinmo. Zhang Qinmo snorted, and beside him, the purple heaven royal thunder appeared, striking down the incoming azure light. The azure and purple lights intersected, annihilating each other and turning into nothingness. Zhang Shentong's fingers kept pointing repeatedly. Blue, purple, crimson, red. In an instant, various colorful lights emerged continuously, like a never-ending river, with a momentum that never seemed to stop. The density was so high that Zhang Qinmo could barely defend himself. What was most terrifying was that these 7 colored lights seemed inexhaustible, and it was unknown whether they were a result of a technique or a spiritual treasure. It seemed like they didn't require any consumption. After the attack started, there was no sign of weakening. Moreover, the intensity of the light even increased. Gradually, wounds began to appear on Zhang Qinmo's body. Although they would quickly heal on their own, Zhang Qinmo still looked quite wretched. On the other hand, Zhang Shentong seemed relaxed and at ease from beginning to end. This 7-colored divine light is indeed extraordinary. Could it be that Zhang Shentong defeated Zhang Qinmo with this? Li Fan analyzed while watching. No, although the 7-colored divine light has astonishing destructive power, it is still limited to the same realm. Once Zhang Qinmo reveals his purple core, I'm afraid he can easily resist it. Suddenly, Li Fan seemed to realize something, and his expression became serious. So that's it. He stared at the ongoing battle between Zhang Qinmo and Zhang Shentong. Wounds appeared on Zhang Qinmo's body like blooming flowers, but in an instant, they were healed by the power surging from within him. As the battle continued, this process repeated. It seemed like it would never end. However, for a foundation establishment cultivator, there was a limit to their strength. Although Zhang Qinmo's total amount of spiritual energy far surpassed an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator, it was still far from being infinite. When the battle dragged on for a day, 2 days, 3 days, the spiritual energy within him finally began to deplete. Thus, Zhang Qinmo had to start using the energy stored in the purple core. When Li Fan cultivated the karmic body, he speculated that the purple core in Zhang Qinmo's body was a means used by the Purple Heaven sect to contain and suppress cultivation. Now, it seemed to be true. Chapter 267, Slaying Zhang Qinmo. But, Li Fan couldn't help but furrow his brow. Could it be that senior brother Zhang's purple core cannot be activated voluntarily? Recalling the scene where senior brother Zhang's physical body was completely destroyed, only to reappear from the purple core afterward, Li Fan couldn't help but speculate, could it be that this special state can only be triggered by death? The subsequent battle seemed to confirm Li Fan's speculation. Zhang Shentong's continuous onslaught with the 7-colored divine light lasted for more than 20 days. Finally, the energy stored in Zhang Qinmo's purple core was depleted. After Zhang Qinmo was disintegrated by countless divine lights, there was no scene of the purple core resurrecting him. Excuse my impoliteness. The old Taoist's face showed a faint smile again. He bowed toward the direction where his opponent had been reduced to bones. Then, his figure gradually disappeared. So, it was resolved in this way. It's really... Li Fan couldn't help but feel speechless. He didn't expect that Jiang Qinmo would be slowly drained to death. Senior brother Jiang's cultivation in the purple core state was almost invincible against Foundation establishment cultivators. Thus, it was fine as long as he wasn't allowed to enter the purple core state. Looking back, the principle was simple. However, upon careful consideration, Li Fan felt that achieving this was easier said than done. In Jiang Qinmo's ordinary state, his combat power was already at the peak of Foundation establishment cultivators. To suppress him for such a long time without killing him was extremely difficult. An ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator could never achieve it. Even an ordinary golden core cultivator couldn't easily accomplish this. Li Fan, at present, naturally couldn't replicate it. However, he had at least discovered a way to restrain senior brother Jiang. The key was one word: exhaust. With a solution in mind, the following tasks would be more manageable. Li Fan had formidable combat strength not below senior brother Jiang's regular state. He only needed to find a way to engage in prolonged combat and exhaust Jiang Qinmo's spiritual energy in the fallen immortal realm. The only concern was that each time he entered the fallen immortal realm, there was a time limit. However, Li Fan already had a solution for this, and only hadn't implemented it out of caution. This was a good opportunity to see if it worked. Before entering the fallen immortal realm again, Li Fan first investigated who this Zhang Shintong was. The result surprised him. He initially thought this person might be an exceptional genius, gifted with extraordinary talents. The white hair and childish demeanor might just be a disguise. Unexpectedly, Zhang Shintong was just an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator. He was even a bit of a late bloomer. This person was an ordinary mortal until he was over 60 years old, and only then did he start thinking about cultivation. Finally, before reaching the end of his life, he successfully stepped into qi condensation. He spent dozens of years in the qi condensation stage. And just as he was about to run out of lifespan, he entered the Foundation establishment stage. Normally, such a person, even after becoming a Foundation establishment cultivator, would have been a nameless existence. However, this person, surprisingly, comprehended his own innate talent not long ago. He could summon 7-colored divine light to attack enemies. The light was as sharp as a blade and was near unstoppable. Moreover, he could travel by turning into light, allowing him to escape extremely quickly. Even nascent soul cultivators couldn't compare with his speed. It was precisely because of the existence of this 7-colored divine light that Zhang Shintong's name gradually became well known. Interesting. According to the current information, Zhang Shintong seems to have comprehended this 7-colored divine light last year, in the middle of the 23rd year. Perhaps there is a chance to see how he achieved this. It was no surprise Li Fan had this idea. After all, Zhang Shintong's aptitude wasn't particularly high. If there was an opportunity to snatch this fortuitous encounter, Li Fan wouldn't let it slip by. After all, the power of this 7-colored divine light was indeed quite formidable. With this matter in mind, Li Fan began to prepare. He searched for a method of prolonged combat and found several options. One was special techniques, and the second was unique Foundation treasures. The third was relying on some special spiritual treasures. The fourth was taking pills. Naturally, Li Fan chose the cheapest and most effective solution. Upper-grade human treasure, endless hatred branch. With the heavenly treasure in tow, Li Fan quietly left 10,000 Immortals Island. In his usual manner, he found a secluded area beneath the deep sea, and Li Fan began closed-door cultivation. First, he absorbed the endless hatred branch. Then, truth transformed into the appearance of the Kanghai Pearl and the endless hatred branch at the same time. Li Fan tried the consumption of spiritual energy. To his pleasant surprise, with the combined enhancement of these two Foundation treasures, the recovery speed of spiritual energy within his body was astonishingly fast. It was as if the water of the sea and the hatred of mankind were inexhaustible and limitless. With the capital for a prolonged battle, Li Fan was confident. After contemplating for a moment, he summoned the azure flame illusionary spirit and entered a state of absolute rationality devoid of emotional fluctuations. Then, he held a ritual. Blessings bestowed by the celestial sovereign of Xuanwang. After a moment, Li Fan finally entered the fallen immortal realm once again. Junior brother, junior brother. Amidst the familiar voice of Jiang Qinmo, Li Fan opened his eyes. He locked eyes with senior brother Jiang. In just a second, the kind and smiling senior brother suddenly turned serious, with a murderous intent in his gaze. However, he didn't immediately take action. Instead, he appeared in the distance in a flash, locking onto Li Fan from afar. "You're not junior brother, otherworldly demon, evil spirit, or..." In the state of absolute rationality, Li Fan was only focused on achieving his goal. Without wasting words with Zhang Qinmo, the outer shell that belonged to junior brother Li Chen instantly dissolved, revealing Li Fan's original appearance. Then, as the Kanghai pearl rotated, he struck out forcefully with a Kong Yun sword. Witnessing this horrifying scene, Zhang Qinmo was furious. "Bold demon, daring to be presumptuous in front of me, Zhang Qinmo of the Purple Heaven sect." Purple Heaven royal thunder descended from the sky, about to strike Li Fan. However, it was met with a heaven-overturning calm, and the thunder dissipated to nothing instantly. Before Zhang Qinmo could react, Li Fan's attacks continued to follow like a tidal wave. Li Fan meticulously controlled the power of every move and style, minimizing the use of spiritual energy while constantly depleting Zhang Qinmo's strength. The battle between the two fell into a protracted and tense state. The fierce fight lasted for more than 30 days, destroying countless ordinary villages and cities along the way. In the end, Zhang Qinmo was one step ahead of Li Fan but fell into a state of exhaustion. He was killed by Li Fan with a single sword. There was no resurrection from his purple core. Zhang Qinmo was dead. Li Fan had narrowly won the battle. However, before he could explore the surrounding areas without the restriction of Zhang Qinmo's supervision, a familiar fluctuation descended. The duration of the fallen immortal realm had reached its limit. It seems that even with the use of the Azure Flame illusionary spirit, I can't stay in the fallen immortal realm without any limitations. Thinking so, Li Fan returned to the real world. Retracting the Azure Flame illusionary spirit, a strong feeling of exhaustion surged over him. 30+ days of high-intensity combat was also a considerable mental test. Fortunately, the gains were plentiful this time. I finally solved the long-standing problem of Zhang Qinmo. Next time, when I enter the fallen immortal realm, I shouldn't be trapped in Ningyuan City again, right? And, Li Fan's expression became subtle as he examined the text that inexplicably appeared in his mind. This should be what he gained from killing Zhang Qinmo. Although it wasn't the complete, Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique for Li Fan, it was extremely useful. It compensated for a major weakness of Li Fan. Purple Heaven Royal Thunder Escape. Similar to the Purple Heaven Soul Observation technique, it was also a secret technique attached to the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder True technique. Chapter 268, Hidden Danger of Azure Flame. TN. Term change from Venerable Heart Refinement Mantra greater than Xuanwang Heart Refinement Mantra. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Intent rides the Purple Heaven, body akin to thunder. What a great escaping technique. After thoroughly studying the secret technique, Purple Heaven Royal Thunder Escape, a hint of joy flashed in Li Fan's eyes. But then he felt a bit regretful. Unfortunately, without the complement of the Royal Thunder True Intent from the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, the speed of the escape technique will be greatly reduced. If I use it alone, I estimate it will only reach half the speed of its full potential. Nevertheless, even so, it's much faster than the escape techniques commonly sold in the Tianshuan mirror. The acquisition of the secret technique after defeating Zhang Qinmo was an unexpected blessing. According to common sense, there would be no gains from killing someone in the fallen immortal realm. Otherwise, exploring the fallen immortal realm would be too easy, just group up and slaughter. Such a situation would only arise if the lingering obsession of the slain person was related to being defeated. Zhang Qinmo walks the path of undefeated victory. Li Fan couldn't help but think so. However, without the Azure Flame illusionary spirit technique, which allows me to greatly extend my time in the fallen immortal realm, I'm afraid it's almost impossible to exhaust senior brother Zhang to death. Entering the state of absolute rationality with the Azure Flame illusionary spirit could increase the duration of existence in the fallen immortal realm. This was inspired by Chen Ying from the medicine hall. Chen Ying needed to refine the Ice Intent Heartless Pill using the blue blood coral to enhance the efficiency of exploring the fallen immortal realm. After the blue blood coral absorbed a hint of the chilling aura from the Azure Flame illusionary spirit, the medicinal effect of the Ice Intent Heartless Pill created from it unexpectedly improved significantly. At that time, Li Fan speculated that activating the Azure Flame illusionary spirit's special state might replace or even surpass the effect of taking the Ice Intent Heartless Pill. This trial turned out to be just as expected. The reason why Li Fan didn't use the Azure Flame illusionary spirit in his previous explorations of the fallen immortal realm was due to a hidden concern in his heart. Li Fan had practiced the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra as instinctively as breathing for countless lifetimes of arduous cultivation. Although he hadn't made any substantial breakthroughs, Li Fan's understanding of his own state of mind far exceeded that of an ordinary cultivator. This time, Li Fan remained in that special state in the fallen immortal realm for nearly 30 days. After leaving, amidst his exhaustion, Li Fan also keenly sensed the erosion of that frozen intent on himself. Ever since he encountered the existence of the Heavenly Doctor and the unknown being lurking in Yuandao province, Li Fan always held a sense of vigilance towards the powerhouses of this world. This included the Azure Flame he inexplicably envisioned, the Netherworld Spirit Illusion Technique, and the advanced version that followed, the Unholy Netherworld Spirit Illusion Technique, belonged to the Special Summoning series of techniques. The coldly rational power didn't originate from the technique itself but from the illusionary spirit envisioned. This was an essential difference. Hence, this Azure Flame illusionary spirit might have a corresponding entity in the real world. Li Fan naturally couldn't completely trust it. It was natural that using the power of a heavenly spirit had corresponding negative effects. When used occasionally, it was possible to dissipate the negative effects using the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra. But if it were indiscriminately abused, it might gradually alter the mind without one noticing. This inexplicable erosion during this trial was the best proof. Moreover, although the Azure Flame illusionary spirit could significantly increase the duration of existence in the fallen immortal realm, its drawbacks were also extremely obvious. The fallen immortal realm was a world derived from consciousness. This method of suppressing consciousness fluctuations to an extremely low level was definitely considered terrifyingly abnormal in the eyes of the natives of the fallen immortal realm. Zhang Qinmo saw through Li Fan at a glance, clearly demonstrating this point. It was only suitable for use after determining the final series of actions, and not for ordinary exploration. Regardless, with the assistance of the Azure Flame illusionary spirit, Li Fan ultimately managed to deal with the roadblock, Zhang Qinmo. This made Li Fan, who had been trapped in Ningyuan City, eagerly anticipate his next encounter after re-entering the fallen immortal realm. After all, the vastness of the fallen immortal realm far surpassed that of the Xuanwang realm. If one were constantly trapped in one place and unable to fully explore its mysteries and wonders, wouldn't that be too regrettable? With the resolution of the event that had been weighing on his mind, Li Fan couldn't help but feel relieved. Destroying the traces of his retreat under the sea, Li Fan was about to return to the 10,000 Immortals Island when he suddenly received a transmission from Zhang Ziliang. He was summoned to the formation hall. After a moment of contemplation, Li Fan did not delay. Transforming the endless hatred branch in his dantian into the 7 apertures exquisite heart, he headed straight for the formation hall. Entering the slanted metallic structure, Li Fan, who was familiar with the route, arrived at Zhang Ziliang's location. His figure stood tall, seemingly unchanged from before. However, there was a sense of impending crisis Li Fan had never experienced when facing Zhang Ziliang before. It seems, as soon as the thought emerged in his mind, Li Fan suppressed it using the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra. "Greetings, Master," he bowed respectfully, his mind free from distractions. Zhang Ziliang looked Li Fan up and down, nodded, and said, "It seems your progress is good. As soon as the opportunity arises, you'll be able to break through to the Golden Core stage." Changing the subject, he suddenly asked, "You've already received the soul separation jade slip from me 3 times. How did your recent study go with the last soul separation jade slip?" Li Fan truthfully reported the situation. Zhang Ziliang then threw a testing ball over, indicating for Li Fan to take the test. As Li Fan's consciousness entered it, a series of difficult formation problems came rushing towards him. Li Fan answered each one. Compared to the testing ball test given by Zhang Ziliang in the previous life, the difficulty of this test was clearly much higher. However, after nearly 10 years of uninterrupted formation study, Li Fan was no longer the ignorant person he once was. After the test ended, Zhang Ziliang looked at the bright spots on the testing ball and finally showed a hint of satisfaction. "Not bad. Although there's room for improvement, your foundation is very solid. It's evident that you've put in a lot of effort in the study of formations." Li Fan replied humbly, "Master, you're too kind. I know I am stupid, so in order not to fall behind, I can only work harder to make up for it." Zhang Ziliang smiled and said, "In just a few short years, you've been able to study the art of formations that I have taught to such an extent. Your talent is not bad. There is no need to belittle yourself," Zhang Ziliang concluded. Of course, if he knew the actual amount of time Li Fan had spent studying, he would definitely think differently. But fortunately, he didn't know. Good talent, diligent, and selfless. Zhang Ziliang looked at Li Fan again and said, 2 years later, there will be a closed training session in Tianyu province for young formation talents from various provinces of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Our Kong Yunxi has 3 spots. I intend to give one of them to you. Are you willing to go? Chapter 269, Tianxuan Spirit Lock Formation. Li Fan didn't hesitate at all, showing an extremely surprised expression on his face and eagerly saying, "Junior is willing to go." Li Fan's reaction did not exceed Zhang Ziliang's expectations. He nodded and explained, "The purpose of this training is to allow the younger generation to quickly master the Tianxuan Spirit Lock Formation. The goal is to cover every area of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance within the range of the Spirit Lock Formation by 30 years. Li Fan's expression changed slightly. Tianxuan Spirit Lock Formation. Is that the formation in the Jushan province which was capable of marking all the 5 Elders Association, cultivators with pillars of light? Zhang Ziliang was quite satisfied with Li Fan's quick response and nodded, "Exactly." The Tianxuan Spirit Lock Formation was jointly developed by many formation masters after the battle in Tianling province, by studying the captured cultivators of the 5 Elders Association. The 5 Elders Association's cultivators. Li Fan was somewhat puzzled. "May I ask, Master, why does this formation research require a study on cultivators?" Zhang Ziliang was quite patient with Li Fan and explained, "Do you know the difference between the 5 Elders Association and our 10,000 Immortals Alliance?" Li Fan replied, "Our 10,000 Immortals Alliance is a free alliance. With their own efforts, by accumulating contribution points, cultivators can redeem cultivation techniques. While the 5 Elders Association, although they can obtain martial arts techniques for free, they need to sign a contract of servitude. A lifetime of being subject to others. It's not as good as our 10,000 Immortals Alliance's freedom. To be honest, Master, when I was a wanderer before, I once considered which side to join. After comparing the conditions of both sides, I chose to join our 10,000 Immortals Alliance without hesitation." Li Fan spoke with great righteousness. Zhang Ziliang smiled slightly, not commenting on Li Fan's loyal statement. Continuing, he said, "Yes, every cultivator who joins the 5 Elders Association will sign a soul contract. Their soul is naturally different from ordinary cultivators. A long time ago, we had the idea of distinguishing between enemies and ourselves based on this difference. However, due to insufficient research specimens, it has never succeeded. In the recent battle at Tianling province, although overall we were at a disadvantage, we didn't come away empty-handed either. This Tianxuan Spirit Lock Formation is one of the results of the war." Zhang Ziliang seemed to recall something. His expression became inexplicable, and his tone also became somewhat desolate. However, he quickly returned to normal and continued, "Within the coverage of the formation, it can detect the soul anomalies caused by the soul contract, and thus distinguish between enemies and ourselves. The marking goes straight to the soul and cannot be unraveled by non-Dao integration cultivators. The successful development of this formation is of great significance. At the very least, once it is popularized, ordinary spies will no longer be able to hide. And those pillars of light that pierce through the heavens and earth also eliminate the possibility of sneak attacks by the 5 Elders Association." Zhang Ziliang spoke confidently, with a hint of pride on his face. "However, this formation involves the souls of cultivators, making it difficult and obscure. Ordinary formation masters are completely incapable of constructing it. In order to quickly deploy the Tianxuan Spirit Lock Formation, it is necessary to train a group of experts in this field. The purpose of the training in Tianyu province 2 years later is for this reason. The reason for the 2-year delay is also because of the involvement of souls. Not only do the organizers need to collect various materials, but the young talents participating also need to be adequately prepared." As he spoke, Zhang Ziliang threw over a storage ring. Li Fan took the ring and looked inside, his brows furrowing slightly. Because inside the storage ring lay a corpse. Apart from the corpse, there was nothing else. What was even more peculiar was that the body of the corpse was no different from an ordinary cultivator. Even the attire was identical to that of a normal cultivator. The only chilling and astonishing aspect was that the head of the corpse belonged not to a human, but to a horse. This is the legendary, intent horse. It's quite precious, and I haven't received much, so be sure not to lose it. Zhang Ziliang's voice came slowly. Intent horse. Li Fan's heart moved. I know about the heart monkey, which can enhance and quickly replenish spiritual energy. I wonder what use this intent horse has. Li Fan asked in confusion. The heart monkey strengthens the spiritual energy, while the intent horse strengthens the soul, Zhang Ziliang said slowly. As for how it strengthens, a mysterious smile suddenly appeared on Zhang Ziliang's face. You'll know once you try it yourself. Li Fan nodded, indicating his understanding. At the beginning of the closed training, there will be an assessment of the talents from the various provinces. You need to work harder in these 2 years. When the time comes, don't disgrace our Kong Yunxi. Zhang Ziliang admonished, then handed 3 soul separation jade slips to Li Fan. You have a total of 6 soul separation jade slips. If you can read them all, it means you can graduate. I don't expect you to achieve that in these 2 years. But I'll give them to you first as an encouragement. Li Fan bowed and thanked him, accepting the jade slips. You may go now. Prepare well. I will notify you again before the training officially begins. Zhang Ziliang waved his hand. Back in the Tianshuan mirror, Li Fan first searched for information on the intent horse. There were very few results, and no useful information was found. It seems like something that ordinary foundation establishment cultivators wouldn't be able to know about. After all, even Zhang Ziliang said it was precious, indicating its high value. It seems I must try it myself. Li Fan's eyes flickered as he released the horse-faced corpse from the ring. How do I try it? Li Fan first observed quietly for a moment, but nothing unusual happened. After pondering for a moment, he then touched it with his hand. After a long time, it seemed that nothing had changed. It was as if the figure in front of him was just an ordinary, albeit strangely shaped, corpse. Strange. After a while, Li Fan still couldn't figure out how to use the intent horse. With doubts in his mind, he couldn't help but subconsciously touch his chin. When Li Fan's hand touched his own chin, his body suddenly stiffened. His heart stopped. Could it be? Li Fan summoned a mirror to observe his own face. As expected, although he was mentally prepared, when he saw his horse-faced self in the mirror, Li Fan still felt a chill. Could it be that this intent horse in front of me came about like this? In an instant, an uncontrollable thought emerged in Li Fan's mind. So, how did it die? Li Fan's gaze involuntarily fell on the intent horse corpse lying quietly on the ground. There was not a single scratch on its body. As he looked at it, a sudden chill arose in Li Fan's heart. Because he suddenly noticed that this intent horse corpse lying on the ground had undergone an inexplicable change at some point. Its attire became unmistakably identical to Li Fan in every way. No, not just the clothing. Li Fan's heart sank. The entire intent horse corpse, silently and imperceptibly, became identical to Li Fan. Is this corpse my fate soon? A thought suddenly emerged. Will I die? Fear descended in an instant. Chapter 270. Intent Horse's Danger. Thump, thump. Li Fan's heart began to beat uncontrollably as if he had witnessed his own tragic death moments away. Instinctively, Li Fan was about to silently chant truth in his heart to return to the anchor point. However, in the blink of an eye, he felt something was amiss and forcibly stopped himself. The Xuanwang heart refinement mantra slowly shattered the fear that continuously surged in his heart, turning it into mental nourishment while also providing Li Fan with a precious moment of calm reflection. Could it be that Zhang Ziliang has discovered something and intends to harm me through this method? No, he should have already advanced to the soul transformation stage. There's no need for such elaborate schemes against a mere foundation establishment cultivator like me. He could have just attacked directly. So, the reason for this strange premonition is the effect of the intent horse itself. As he thought so, Li Fan suddenly felt a trance-like sensation. His hair stood on end as if someone was staring at him. Startled, Li Fan immediately turned around. He saw Zhang Ziliang gazing at him, wearing an indescribable smile. Li Fan instinctively retreated, his spiritual energy surged, and the Kong Yun sword was about to be unleashed. But in the blink of an eye, Zhang Ziliang's figure disappeared. Li Fan was momentarily stunned, then realized he was still inside the Tianshuan mirror. Even beings like the heavenly doctor would cause quite a stir if they tried to intrude forcefully. How could Zhang Ziliang sneak in so quietly? An illusion. Li Fan turned to look at the intent horse corpse on the ground and immediately noticed something unusual, furrowing his brows. The intent horse corpse had inexplicably changed its posture without him noticing. Is it dead or alive? Li Fan couldn't help but question. Fear surged in his heart once again, echoing for a long time. His body felt chilly. This intent horse is a bit strange. However, I have truth. No matter how dangerous it is, it can't harm my life. Thinking of this, Li Fan felt slightly relieved. Strangely enough, when he thought so, the inexplicable sense of fear in his heart suddenly receded like a tide. Interesting. Li Fan's eyes flickered. However, he still possessed a horse face, indicating that the situation was not over yet. Seizing this opportunity, Li Fan's mind raced as he considered countermeasures. However, before Li Fan could think of anything, the situation changed once again. The sound of an arrow piercing through the air suddenly came. This was followed by the dull sound of it piercing flesh. Li Fan followed the sound and saw an arrow coming from nowhere. It hit the left arm of the intent horse corpse directly. Just as Li Fan was about to pull out the arrow to see if it was real or not, a sudden intense pain struck. Coincidentally, the pain also came from his left arm. Li Fan scanned with his spiritual consciousness, his face immediately darkening. The same position, the same wound. Even when Li Fan tried to use his spiritual energy, he couldn't heal the wound. He bought a healing pill from the Tianquan mirror and swallowed it, but it still had no effect. The wound remained. Is it real or fake? Li Fan sensed the burning pain on his arm, which felt undoubtedly real. So, does everything that happens on the intent horse reflect on me? If Li Fan's thoughts didn't continue, and he forcefully activated the Xuanwang heart refinement mantra to clear his mind. Ignoring the pain in his body, he continued to think about countermeasures. In theory, Zhang Ziliang has no reason to toy with me. This intent horse is indeed a treasure that can enhance the soul. So, I can deduce that the strange scenes that just happened felt so real because they bypassed my senses and directly affected my soul. It's beyond ordinary illusions, and directly targets the soul. As Li Fan contemplated, a sharp sword suddenly appeared. With a cold gleam, it severed the index finger of the intent horse's right hand. The intense pain made Li Fan involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air. Looking at his right hand, the index finger was indeed missing. It was continuously bleeding. Li Fan placed his mutilated right hand in front of his eyes, carefully observing. Is it real, or fake? Logic told Li Fan that everything happening to him was just the effect of the intent horse on his soul. It was all illusory. But the constant burning pain made Li Fan doubt his own judgment. If all of this is just an illusion, then it doesn't matter. But what if I'm wrong, and these wounds are real? If I continue to sit back and watch it happen, am I waiting to die? A thought emerged involuntarily. To determine if it's real or fake, why not ask others to verify? With that thought, Li Fan left the Tianquan mirror. When he, with a hoarse face, wandered in front of other cultivators without attracting any strange looks, Li Fan finally confirmed that it was indeed an illusion brought about by the intent horse. But, Li Fan touched his chest, where another deep wound appeared. While he was verifying the illusion outside, a total of 8 wounds appeared on Li Fan's body. The speed of occurrence is getting faster, and the wounds are getting larger. Even if I know these are all illusions, at this intensity, it doesn't matter whether they're real or fake anymore. If this continues to develop, could I really die? Before transmigrating, Li Fan had heard of a certain punishment. A prisoner would be blindfolded and his arms would be slashed with a knife. Then, mimic the sound of blood dripping with water drops while continuously whispering about blood loss to them. Although the wound on the arm had long since coagulated and wouldn't lose much blood, under constant psychological suggestion from oneself and others, some prisoners would truly believe that they were losing too much blood and eventually die. When they believed they were dead, they would die. Li Fan guessed that the effect of the intent horse was similar because the illusion had reached a point where it was almost indistinguishable from reality. If he didn't do anything and just waited for the situation to continue to develop, when the intent horse's body received fatal injuries such as an exploding head, Li Fan would also likely be affected by the synchronous injuries and truly believe that he was severely wounded. Then, he would inexplicably die. This was the influence of self-cognition on the body. And to avoid this, Li Fan opened the truth panel. He stared closely at the charging progress. As long as the automatic protection of truth is not triggered, no matter how real the sensation is, there is no danger to my life. With that thought, Li Fan felt much more at ease. The fear in his heart gradually dissipated. Chapter 271, Treasure to Enhance the Soul. The automatic protection of truth was like a heavy anchor, firmly anchoring Li Fan above the ocean of his thoughts. This prevented him from being swayed by the extremely realistic illusions, preventing them from affecting his physical body through his thoughts. However, Li Fan did not relax his vigilance. He stared fixedly at the recharge progress of truth. Once the progress dropped, Li Fan planned to activate truth immediately and return to his anchor point. In this way, Li Fan, who was mentally prepared, quietly awaited the changes that the intent horse would bring next. The speed at which the wounds appeared became faster and faster. But Li Fan remained steadfast. Regardless of how many wounds appeared on his body, even as he grew weaker due to severe injuries, he simply watched the charging progress in front of him without any reaction. After a long time, seemingly because these injuries couldn't intimidate Li Fan, a new change occurred. A flame ignited from the intent horse's corpse. At the same time, Li Fan felt an unbearable heat descending upon him. He couldn't help but let out a low groan. He even saw his body slowly turning to ashes in the flames. It's fake, all fake. The charging progress of truth remained unmoved. This indicated that there was no mortal danger. Everything was just an extremely realistic illusion. Li Fan firmly believed in his heart. The blazing flames continued to flicker. Li Fan struggled in unbearable pain and torment. After an unknown period, the long agony gradually subsided. After the intent horse's corpse on the ground was completely burned to ashes, the illusions entwining Li Fan finally disappeared. As he reassessed himself in the mirror, he had returned to his original human appearance. Furthermore, Li Fan felt that he seemed to have become stronger. Not in terms of physical body or cultivation level, but in terms of soul. Li Fan carefully pondered his own changes. If spiritual consciousness is compared to a person's muscles, then spiritual consciousness can be continuously strengthened through training and cultivation techniques. However, the soul is like a person's skeleton and is predetermined from birth. Only special methods, such as breakthroughs in cultivation realms and the effects of certain heavenly treasures, can strengthen it. Ordinary methods simply cannot affect it. And now, I feel like my skeleton has visibly grown larger. Li Fan hadn't felt this sense of becoming stronger in a long time. Even the feeling brought about by advancing one small realm in cultivation couldn't compare. If there was a comparison to be made, it would only be comparable to the feeling of successfully entering the Qi condensation or foundation establishment stage, a major realm advancement. After some experimentation, Li Fan found that although his cultivation level hadn't improved, the intensity of his spiritual consciousness had been affected, experiencing a significant increase. Furthermore, his thought processing speed seemed to have become smoother. The intent horse is indeed a good treasure. Although the way it achieves its effects is a bit strange, the results are really good. The fear in his heart had disappeared, replaced by an inevitable greed. Heart monkey, intent horse. If the heart monkey is transformed from a cultivator, then it seems that this intent horse should also be formed by a cultivator. Recalling the completely identical intent horse corpse from earlier, a guess surged in Li Fan's mind. I have truth to help me cheat, so I was able to pass through the effects of the intent horse so easily. But if one's will is not so firm, and they truly die, I'm afraid the previous intent horse met its end this way. So, Zhang Ziliang's intention is also very clear. It's both a reward and a test. If one can't even pass the test of the intent horse, it means they're not qualified to represent the Kong Yunxi in Tianyu province, nor inherit his unique skills. If you die, then so be it. Tisk tisk. After advancing to the soul transformation stage, Zhang Ziliang's mindset is really quite different from before. Back then, even when I was just at the Qi condensation stage, I received his special care and was granted the infinite formation. Now, thinking of this, Li Fan couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. He then sent a report message to Zhang Ziliang. Zhang Ziliang was a bit surprised that Li Fan was able to digest the intent horse so quickly. It seems your willpower is even stronger than I imagined. Very well, among the three, you are the first to achieve it. Here's your reward. With that, Zhang Ziliang sent an object through the Tianquan mirror. This object was a white glowing cube, the formation crown that Li Fan had coveted for a long time. Upon receiving it, Li Fan couldn't help but feel pleasantly surprised. He exclaimed repeatedly, "Many thanks for your kindness, master. This formation crown is for you." Inside, there are a total of over 100 different formations superimposed. In your spare time, you can disassemble and study it. If you can construct a 30-layer formation crown on your own, you can be considered a formation master. Zhang Ziliang instructed, the enhancement effect of the intent horse on the soul is not just temporary. For a long time, it will have a certain nourishing effect on the soul. During this time, it's best for you to cultivate diligently and avoid conflicts with others. Maximize its effect. Perhaps you've also realized that the intent horse was once a cultivator in its lifetime. And the one I gave you was a golden core cultivator in life. If you can fully absorb its effects, doubling the strength of your soul shouldn't be a problem. Li Fan hadn't expected this additional benefit and quickly expressed his gratitude to Zhang Ziliang again. Zhang Ziliang, however, hung up the communication without any further response. A golden core cultivator. One can't escape the fate of becoming someone else's nourishment even after dying. Li Fan shook his head inwardly. Li Fan suddenly remembered the human-faced Tian fruits he had seen on Tian Island. At that time, the human-faced fruits seemed to only affect mortals on the island. If a cultivator were turned into a human-faced fruit, would a fruit with a stronger effect appear? Whether it's Tian fruits, heart monkeys, or intent horses. I wonder if there's any connection between them. Li Fan felt that there seemed to be some kind of secret hidden in all of this, giving him a strange feeling. It felt out of place, yet somewhat familiar. After pondering for a while, the blue crystal in his mind continuously flickered, and scenes of past experiences appeared before his eyes. Li Fan finally realized where this sense of familiarity came from. Sect ruins, anomalies. Li Fan pondered for a moment, somewhat uncertain. However, this contradicted the current rules of cultivation, was completely unreasonable, and seemed to have its own system of laws, yet was all connected. It is said that anomalies only exist within ancient sect ruins. If the two are really related, what does that imply? Li Fan was suddenly reminded of the time after the ox had pulled the master to the Cloudwater Heavenly Palace. He was summoned to the Heavenly Secrets Hall for investigation. In front of the huge map of the Kongyun Sea, the frail cultivator had said, "One more case." Li Fan vaguely guessed something. Chapter 272, A Startling Change. Anomalies likely exist outside ancient sect ruins as well. Li Fan made the most reasonable inference. Throughout the Xuanwang realm, there have been scattered incidents of anomalous attacks on people. The human-faced fruits, heart monkeys, and intent horses may all be products of these anomalies. Judging by the Heavenly Secrets Hall's behavior, it seemed that anomalies were kept under strict surveillance at all times. Presumably, the same was true for the Five Elders Association. Li Fan thought for a moment, shaking his head inwardly, it's good to know about this, but it's not my concern as a mere foundation establishment cultivator. Compared to anomalies, the powerful figures of the Xuanwang realm are even more frightening. The association of the intent horse to the possible existence of anomalies in the Xuanwang realm was just a minor incident. Soon, Li Fan put it behind him. Following Zhang Ziliang's instructions, while cultivating quietly in the Tianshuan mirror, Li Fan absorbed the power of the intent horse, strengthening his own soul. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. At the bottom of the Kongyun Sea, Yi Feipeng, who had been sleeping all this time, finally began to slowly awaken. A loud and distant whale cry echoed from the depths of the sea. It continuously spread to the surrounding sea areas. Countless marine creatures, upon hearing this sound, trembled as if they had encountered a natural enemy, shivering and unable to move, instantly losing their resistance. Above Yi Feipeng's head, the phantom of a whale monster appeared along with the sound. The monster opened its huge mouth, as if starving for a long time, and suddenly sucked in. A huge vortex was thus created. The surging seawater, along with countless unfortunate marine creatures, was swallowed into the monster's mouth. After a long time like this, the whale finally felt full after swallowing a vast amount of seawater. Letting out a satisfied high-pitched cry, it raised its huge tail high and suddenly slapped downwards. The giant whale then re-entered Yi Feipeng's body. After that, Yi Feipeng's eyes twitched slightly, gradually waking up. First, he froze in place, looking around at the environment he was in, feeling a bit bewildered. Gradually, scenes flashed in his mind one after another. He gradually became aware of what had happened to him before he fell into a coma and during the coma. Subconsciously, Yi Feipeng touched his belly and muttered to himself, I'm truly a fortuitous man with a heavenly destiny. Not only did I survive a great calamity, but I also awakened the bloodline of the ancient beast Kunpeng. His gaze flashed, looking towards a huge rock not far away on the seabed. With a slight movement, he appeared next to the huge rock in an instant. Without mobilizing the spiritual power within his body, relying solely on the strength of his physical body, he casually threw out a punch. Boom! Cracks appeared on the giant rock, and after a moment, the rock shattered. The power of Kun, the speed of Peng. Yi Feipeng stared at his own fist in amazement, seemingly unable to believe it. The power of the ancient beast is truly terrifying. Now, with just the power I can erupt from my own body, I should be able to compete evenly with my past self before my coma. Immediately after, Yi Feipeng frowned, but I am a direct descendant of the Yi family. How could there be this so-called power of ancient beasts within my body? Could it be that my family's ancestors were not human? Even though the power hidden within this bloodline brought him unspeakable benefits, Yi Feipeng found it difficult to accept for a while. A hint of blue light suddenly appeared in his eyes as Yi Feipeng examined some vague memories that came along with the power of the bloodline. Rescuing a severely injured Kunpeng and escaping. So that's how it is. After a long time, Yi Feipeng breathed a sigh of relief. According to the memories passed down by the bloodline, many years ago, his ancestors had coincidentally saved a severely injured Kunpeng. At that time, for some reason, all the demonic beasts in the world were fleeing in panic. Out of kindness, his ancestors concealed the Kunpeng from everyone and chose to take good care of it. After the Kunpeng recovered from its injuries, before leaving, it gave a drop of Kunpeng essence blood to his ancestors as a token of gratitude. No wonder most of my family ancestors were robust and powerful, endowed with immense strength. It turns out to be the effect of this Kunpeng essence blood. Unfortunately, they were only passively borrowing the power of the blood essence. They failed to truly tap into its potential. Finally, with the help of the Kanghai Pearl, I can fully unleash its effects. After experiencing a life and death calamity, Yi Feipeng became much calmer. If he had suddenly gained such good fortune before, he would certainly have been overjoyed. Now, he had a calm expression, testing the inheritance of the Kunpeng essence blood. At present, the inheritance I have mainly consists of three aspects: Kun devouring, Peng soaring, and Kunpeng transformation. Kun devouring can swallow all substances between heaven and earth, transforming them into nourishment to strengthen me. Peng soaring allows me to soar upwards thousands of miles in an instant. Its speed is as fast as any escape technique. Kunpeng transformation bestows the power of the bloodline upon my body. My human form will revert to its ancestral form, and Kunpeng will reappear. A glint of brilliance flashed in Yi Feipeng's eyes. With a single thought, his originally somewhat obese body swelled another round. Behind him were two bulging masses on his back, rising high. With the initial transformation, Yi Feipeng seemed to be in some pain. His face twisted in agony, veins like gnarled dragons constantly roaming beneath his skin. Ah! With a furious roar, two brown feathered wings extended from behind Yi Feipeng. At the center of his eyebrows, a soaring Kunpeng image simultaneously appeared. The transformation consumed a tremendous amount of energy, and the fatty gasped heavily as he recovered. After resting for a moment, he stood up proudly. The wings on his back flickered slightly. His figure turned into a thin line, and in the blink of an eye, Yi Feipeng appeared more than 10 miles away. It was several times faster than the speed he had always been proud of. Kunpeng rides the wind and swims 10,000 miles in a day. I can still be faster. Yi Feipeng's heart moved, and the green wind true intent within his dantian surged instantly. Around the brown wings, faint traces of green light appeared. After another test, Yi Feipeng found that the green wind and Kunpeng transformation synergized. Their combined effect was greater than the sum of its parts. His flight speed doubled more than twice. Speed is strength. With my speed and the strengthened flesh enhanced by the Kunpeng essence blood, ordinary foundation establishment cultivators wouldn't be able to withstand my blows. Thinking like this, Yi Feipeng erupted with all his speed and rushed towards an underwater mountain range below. A streak of light flashed by, and the mountains collapsed. He stirred up turbid seawater currents. Unsatisfied, Yi Feipeng continued his momentum and rushed towards the distance. A deep and long trench was carved out on the seabed. Only after his strength was exhausted did he finally stop his destructive behavior. Opening his large mouth wide, he swallowed the surrounding seawater once again. Not long after, Yi Feipeng became lively and energetic again. If I had this speed back then, I wouldn't have been caught by Zhang Ziliang. He sighed inwardly. Recalling the scene back then, the fatty's complexion couldn't help but darken. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Tn. A kunpeng is basically a whale that can transform into a bird. Roughly, kun translates to whale, and peng translates to bird, except their corresponding Chinese mythical variants. Chapter 273, Feipeng's First Wings. HMPH, Zhang Ziliang. I'll settle the score with you sooner or later. A hint of ferocity and scorn flashed in Yi Feipeng's eyes. In this world, there are many variables, and there might be some differences from my past life. But I'm certain that Zhang Ziliang will never give up the opportunity to hunt the heavenly spirit. After advancing to soul transformation and gaining the strength to officially participate in the competition, his desire to integrate the Tao should be even stronger. The fatty secretly analyzed, if in the past life, he was merely an auxiliary support as a formation master. Then in this life, Zhang Ziliang has become part of the main combat force. If possible, he might even hide his strength secretly. He'll wait and watch as the soul transformation cultivators and Crimson Flame fight. After waiting until both sides are weakened, he'll strike and reap the benefits. He might even reserve some strength to guard against me since I escaped from his grasp. Yi Feipeng's expression changed. To be honest, he was still somewhat hesitant about whether to participate in the upcoming appearance of the Crimson Flame. After all, now that he had awakened the Kunpeng heritage and possessed both the Kanghai Pearl and the Green Wind True Intent, he was far stronger than most cultivators. Even if he gave up the opportunity to reach Tao integration through the Crimson Flame and only relied on his own cultivation, there was a high probability that he could still cultivate to nascent soul or soul transformation. Why take such a big risk and choose to snatch food from the tiger's mouth in front of a group of soul transformation cultivators? If he succeeded, it would be fine, but if he failed... Yi Feipeng's face twitched. But, it's Tao integration after all. If I miss this opportunity, there might never be such a good chance again. He couldn't help but think so. The scene of Zhang Haobo's overwhelming presence, overlooking all beings after he integrated with the Tao in his previous life, appeared in his mind again. Yi Feipeng couldn't help but feel tempted again. The Kanghai Pearl. Subconsciously touching his belly, the fatty's face was tangled. Let's see. Let's go back to the deserted island first and see how Xiaoheng and the others are doing. Retracting his wings behind him, Yi Feipeng quietly returned to where the others were. The fatty, who had been missing for several years, appeared again, much to the delight of Xiaoheng and the others. After some inquiries, they learned that it was indeed the work of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, and everyone cursed angrily. Su Changyu, however, frowned and asked, Feipeng, did you expose your identity as part of the Immortal Revival Organization? Otherwise, why would others bother a casual cultivator like you for no reason? Yi Feipeng was first stunned, then immediately complained, it's just that the formation master of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance was too domineering. I just took a glance at him when he was advancing, and he immediately wanted to kill me without saying a word. If I hadn't run fast, I would never have seen you again. Su Changyu glanced at the fatty, nodded, and didn't say much more. It seems that Senior Skull was right. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance is indeed arrogant and overbearing. They won't even allow others to watch from a distance. The fatty's words matched Xiaoheng's impression of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, so he believed Yi Feipeng's words. The childish Su Xiaomei didn't have much goodwill towards Yi Feipeng. She chuckled and said, it's okay, fatty. You just obediently call me big sister, and I'll avenge you in the future. You've been sleeping for so long, you may not know that I've already reached the foundation establishment stage and will soon form my golden core. Su Xiaomei put her hands on her hips and looked up at Yi Feipeng, full of pride. Yin Yuding and Yin Yuzhen stood behind her, nodding incessantly, looking like a pair of loyal followers. As for Zhang Haobo, he stood aside, silently watching everyone without saying a word. Big sister, Yi Feipeng sneered, Su Xiaomei, do you think you're the only one who has made progress in these years? Shall we spar? Su Xiaomei, who had a hot temper, was instantly enraged by Yi Feipeng's disdainful attitude. Let's fight. Who's afraid of whom? Before the words fell, a petite but explosively powerful fist whistled towards Yi Feipeng's face. Bang! To everyone's surprise, Yi Feipeng calmly extended his arms and firmly intercepted the fist. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. Their impression of Yi Feipeng still lingered from years ago when he relied on his speed and agile movements to win. But in just a few short years, he was actually able to go head-to-head with Su Xiaomei. Seeing her attack easily blocked, Su Xiaomei suddenly became enraged. Her fists and feet were like the wind, continuously assaulting Yi Feipeng. With her innate talent, as her anger accumulated, the power of each move continued to grow. However, her face remained unusually calm. On the other hand, Yi Feipeng, while entangled with Su Xiaomei, occasionally remembered scenes from the past that made him feel humiliated. Anger surged in his heart. Although he knew this was the effect of Su Xiaomei's cultivated technique, 6 desires without form, Yi Feipeng didn't mind at the moment. He planned to teach this little brat a lesson. Amidst the exclamations of the onlookers, Yi Feipeng activated Kunpeng transformation. 2 brown wings suddenly spread out, and his body instantly expanded by a circle. His speed and strength nearly doubled. Su Xiaomei was taken by surprise, and blown away by a punch and sent flying, crashing heavily into the sea. Xiaomei, Xiao Heng exclaimed. However, before he could rush into the sea to find Su Xiaomei, a red fire parted the seawater. In an instant, it struck Yi Feipeng again. The extremely hot energy erupted, distorting even the air. The onlookers involuntarily stepped back. Looks like Xiaomei even used her foundation establishment wonder, Fury Spirit Fire. She's really angry. Yin Yuzhen stuck out her tongue and whispered softly. Amidst the sea of fire, explosions continued to erupt. Faintly, the crowd could see strands of green light blocking the red flames. The battle between the two lasted for half a day. Their cultivations were evenly matched. One had extraordinary talent, becoming stronger with anger. With a maximum 8-fold power increase, she was extremely formidable. The other had encountered numerous fortuitous encounters, possessing the dual foundation treasures Green Wind True Intent and the Kanghai Pearl. With the Kunpeng bloodline inheritance and its techniques, his speed and strength were no less than Su Xiaomei's. For a while, the two fought fiercely, neither able to gain the upper hand. It wasn't until nightfall that, under the persuasion of the onlookers, they stopped fighting. Both were still dissatisfied, agreeing to fight again another day. Xiao Heng also approached, full of curiosity, asking Yi Feipeng what had happened and how he had suddenly become so strong. Surrounded by everyone's astonished and envious eyes, Yi Feipeng couldn't help but feel a little proud. Indeed, returning home with wealth and honor brings great pride, he secretly thought. The manifestation of his bloodline power was so obvious that there was nothing to hide. So, he immediately revealed the fact that he had awakened and inherited the Kunpeng essence blood. Chapter 274, Ning Yuan's Mysteries. After listening to Yi Feipeng's story, everyone couldn't help but marvel. From time to time, they glanced at the deep brown wings behind him, with a hint of envy in their eyes. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Li Fan, who witnessed everything, had a thoughtful expression on his face. Kunpeng essence blood, just a drop of essence blood passed down through the bloodline, can still cause such earth-shaking changes in a person's body, even after thousands of years have passed. Li Fan, who had already achieved a small degree of success in creation forge art, understood very well what kind of great power this was. How powerful were the Kunpengs at their peak? Not to mention, there are many other demonic beasts that were as fierce or even more fierce than the Kunpeng. Nowadays, not a single one can be seen. What exactly happened back then? Li Fan couldn't help but feel a pang of emotion. I wonder how the blood of demonic beasts strengthens the physical body. How is it different from the creation forge art that mobilizes the body's hidden potential? Perhaps there is a chance to learn. Thinking back to Yi Feipeng's astonishing speed and strength just now, Li Fan couldn't help but ponder. It seems that the little fatty seems to have not given up on the idea of competing for the heavenly spirit. I wonder who will succeed between him and Zhang Ziliang. Although Zhang Ziliang's cultivation level is far above Yi Feipeng's, I have a faint feeling that the fatty has a slightly greater chance. Let's see what surprises he will bring when he forms his golden core. With a flickering gaze, Li Fan's thoughts gradually calmed down. He then played with the white glowing cube in his hand. This object was the formation crown given to him by Zhang Ziliang earlier. In the past 6 months of continuous exploration, Li Fan had completely mastered the initial 20 formations. After failing dozens of times, he finally succeeded in building a miniature formation crown based on these 20 formations. Although he wasted many precious materials, and the power of this formation crown was not comparable to Zhang Ziliang's formation crown with 100 layers of formations, it was still a good start. It meant that Li Fan's proficiency in formations had officially ascended. This achievement was hard-earned, and Li Fan was naturally elated. This made him allocate more energy to formation research during this period. The sea of knowledge was boundless. When immersed in deep thought and concentration, time always passed exceptionally quickly. Unknowingly, the 25th year arrived. On this day, Li Fan suddenly felt a tremor in his heart. After a brief perception, he knew that the restrictions on entering the fallen immortal realm had disappeared, and he could enter again for exploration. I wonder where I will appear this time when I enter. With some excitement and anticipation, Li Fan suspended all processes. Holding his breath, he performed the ritual. Blessings bestowed by the celestial sovereign of Xuanwang. After completing the ritual, his consciousness blurred for a moment, and Li Fan once again entered the fallen immortal realm. Junior brother, the familiar voice sounded again. Li Fan was startled, staring blankly at the appearance of Zhang Qinmo waving his hand in front of him. What's going on? Why am I still here? I clearly defeated him, resolved his obsession, and even obtained a secret technique. Where did it go wrong? Countless doubts surged in Li Fan's heart for a moment. This area of space-time around Ningyuan City should be an existence similar to Tianyang's eternal remembrance. Li Fan was trapped here, and without resolving the obsession that maintained the existence of the space-time, he couldn't leave. But now, forcing down the disappointment in his heart, Li Fan's thoughts quickly turned, calmly analyzing the situation. The current situation could only be explained by a few possibilities. First, Li Fan's understanding of this space-time region could be completely wrong. For unknown reasons, he might be permanently trapped here. No matter what method he tried, he couldn't leave. Second, Li Fan's understanding was not wrong. But he hadn't formally resolved Zhang Qinmo's obsession. Whether it was to soar together with Jixia or to seek defeat, neither was what he truly sought. There might also be a third possibility. Thinking of this, Li Fan narrowed his eyes and looked around in all directions. The one maintaining this space-time wasn't senior brother Zhang's obsession at all. Zhang Qinmo was just an outstanding supporting character. The real protagonist was another person. Which guess was correct? Li Fan wasn't sure right now. Fortunately, he had enough time to systematically eliminate the wrong options. By then, he would know the correct answer. Crushing his impatient and hasty emotions, Li Fan gradually calmed down again. At this moment, Zhang Qinmo, who had been observing the changing expressions on Li Fan's face, finally spoke up. Junior brother, what's wrong with you? Could it be that you had a nightmare in broad daylight? Li Fan smiled faintly. Senior brother, you're truly insightful. I did indeed have a vague nightmare, so I'm a little unsettled. At this point, Zhang Qinmo couldn't help but be curious. Oh. What did you dream about? I dreamt that senior brother was surrounded by hordes of demonic beasts rushing in like a tide, outnumbered and exhausted to death. Li Fan shook his head and sighed. It's really ominous. I don't know why such a dream would come to me out of nowhere. Zhang Qinmo's expression changed slightly, furrowing his brows. As cultivators, our minds are already far from ordinary people's, and we shouldn't have random nightmares. Now that a nightmare suddenly arises, could it be that you have subconsciously sensed something, and your mind warned yourself? Zhang Qinmo rubbed his chin, pondering. Li Fan felt somewhat speechless. He didn't expect that just a casual remark would lead Zhang Qinmo to think so much. But he also inadvertently hit the mark. There was indeed minor danger ahead in Ningyuan City. Following his lead, Li Fan continued, could it be that this trip to obtain the longevity fruit will have some twists and turns and won't be so smooth? Zhang Qinmo was slightly stunned, but he didn't immediately refute. After a moment of thought, he said, Junior brother, your worries are not unfounded. When I overheard Master and another senior chatting, they mentioned that the cultivation world hasn't been very peaceful lately. For safety's sake, why don't we secretly sneak into Ningyuan City first and investigate? Let's see if there's anything strange in the city. Li Fan agreed without hesitation. Immediately, the two put away the purple heaven flying cloud, concealed their breath, and quietly flew towards Ningyuan City. Senior brother, I wonder what your greatest wish in life is. As they flew, Li Fan suddenly spoke up. Why do you ask, junior brother? Zhang Qinmo was somewhat surprised. Forgive me for being blunt. Just now, in my dream, I saw senior brother die tragically, your eyes fixed on me as if there were unresolved regrets. Your gaze was too real. Even though I woke up now, it was unforgettable. It is difficult to calm my heart, so I asked. Li Fan said slowly. Chapter 275, Jiang Qinmo's 3 Grand Wishes. Jiang Qinmo chuckled upon hearing this. It's just a nightmare, junior brother, there's no need to take it seriously. However, seeing Li Fan's intense gaze, Jiang Qinmo pondered for a moment and said, my lifelong wishes. I won't hide it from you. Since I entered the Purple Heaven sect and embarked on the path of cultivation, I've always had 3 major goals. But I've kept them deeply buried in my heart and never mentioned them to anyone. Now that junior brother insists on asking, I don't mind sharing them with you. Consider them as jokes, don't take them too seriously. With a solemn expression, Jiang Qinmo slowly said, I have 3 wishes. First, demons and monsters are causing havoc, and countless lives are suffering. I want to exterminate all demons in the world, bringing peace to the land. Second, the 10 great immortal sects are becoming old and feeble. With power but no virtue, it's difficult to win over the masses. I want to see the Purple Heaven sect replace them. Third, among the various sects in the world, everyone cherishes their own treasures. There are countless profound techniques in the world, but each sect keeps them for themselves. Ordinary cultivators, even if they possess a treasured technique from a sect, cannot fully understand it in their lifetime. Not to mention the countless other sects, techniques. Life has its limits, but techniques are boundless. It's a great pity. If I were to govern the world, I would collect all the techniques and share them with everyone. Everyone can choose the most suitable technique for cultivation, and eventually, we can recreate the golden age of ancient cultivation. Jiang Qinmo spoke eloquently and relentlessly, revealing his lifelong 3 wishes. Each one was more astonishing than the last. Li Fan listened and couldn't help but fall into deep silence. After a long time, he couldn't help but let out a sigh and said, Senior brother, your ambitions are grand, and I admire you. Jiang Qinmo laughed heartily upon hearing this. They're just idle thoughts about various injustices I've encountered in my cultivation journey. Junior brother, just take it as a joke, don't take it seriously. Let's go. With that, he accelerated towards Ningyuan City. Li Fan followed closely behind, thinking to himself, I can only pray that this place isn't being maintained by Jiang Qinmo's obsession. This senior brother of mine is really extraordinary. His wishes are a bit outrageous. I wonder what his true ending will be in history. The 2 of them remained silent along the way and soon arrived at Ningyuan City. Concealing their aura and disguising themselves as ordinary people, the 2 brothers swaggered through the city gates. Junior brother, let's split up and investigate the city for anything suspicious, Jiang Qinmo communicated through voice transmission. Senior brother, you're not going to meet your old lover Chixia, right? Li Fan exposed his intentions with a single sentence. Upon hearing this, Jiang Qinmo felt somewhat embarrassed. Just as he was about to explain, Li Fan suddenly said, if my spiritual intuition is correct, the danger in this city is aimed at the 2 of us. It's likely that there's already an ambush set up around Chixia. If senior brother rashly meets her, he might fall into their trap. Senior brother's cultivation is formidable and is not afraid of them. But I'm afraid that Chixia might be harmed. When Jiang Qinmo heard this, he felt that it made perfect sense. After a moment of contemplation, he communicated through voice transmission, junior brother's approach is prudent. In that case, let's first gather information about the city, and then make plans after reuniting. Li Fan nodded in agreement. Jiang Qinmo's figure gradually disappeared into the crowd. Having already known the personnel arrangement for the ambush in Ningyuan City, Li Fan naturally didn't need to bother with reconnaissance again. The reason he guided Jiang Qinmo to act this way was to delay the outbreak of the battle. Before that, he wanted to re-examine Ningyuan City. To look for the true protagonist. By now, Li Fan had gone through more than 10 cycles in Ningyuan City. After Jiang Qinmo's speech, although he was somewhat reluctant to believe it, Li Fan was very clear that he had likely been mistaken all along. The protagonist of this stage play was someone else, not Jiang Qinmo. This was because Jiang Qinmo's obsession was too grand. The stage of Ningyuan City was too small. The mere incident of ambush while obtaining the longevity fruit could not match senior brother Jiang's ambitions. So, who is the master of this space-time? Li Fan scanned the bustling mortals in Ningyuan City. Could it be among these people? With this question in mind, Li Fan began to wander around Ningyuan City. It was a bustling and lively city. The mortals lived and worked here, completely unaware of the impending disaster. Following the crowded flow of people, Li Fan arrived at a road called Yongqing Street. The roadside was filled with various stalls, and many excited mortals were playing. Walking among them, Li Fan felt as if he had returned to Grand Zon, that long-lost mortal realm. Suddenly, Li Fan's footsteps halted slightly. His spiritual consciousness sensed the surroundings, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then, he deliberately walked towards a nearby dead end. Several small figures hurriedly followed behind him. They walked to the depths of the alley but found that the person they were following had disappeared, which surprised them. Just as they were about to retreat, they found a figure blocking the exit. It was Li Fan. Li Fan looked at the 5 figures tracking him, tilting his head. 5 mortals. They were all extremely thin and frail children. The oldest looked no more than 6 or 7 years old, thin and weak. "What are you little kids following me for?" Li Fan asked with some amusement. The 5 children were caught off guard and looked nervous. But in the face of Li Fan's question, none of them answered, only staring at him intently. Just as Li Fan was about to say something, one of them suddenly shouted, "Dog!" At the same time, a fierce dog's roar resounded behind Li Fan. The vicious dog appeared in an instant, about to pounce on Li Fan. Li Fan intended to crush it directly, but when he saw the face of the vicious dog, he couldn't help but stop. With a slight force, he grabbed it. Ignoring its fierce roar, he carefully examined it in front of his eyes. Indeed, its limbs were those of a dog. But its torso and head were human. "What is this? A demonic beast?" A mysterious light flashed in Li Fan's eyes. Spiritual energy surged out from his body and circulated within its body. Its roaring gradually weakened, and it fell into a deep sleep. "Dog!" Thinking that the dog had died, the 5 children behind shouted in despair. Ignoring the absolute difference in strength, they all rushed towards Li Fan. With a gentle flick from Li Fan, they all fell to the ground. "It's not dead yet," Li Fan said lightly. "If you want to save its life, answer a few questions for me." The few children looked at each other and had to nod in agreement. "This dog," Li Fan paused and corrected himself. "This child, what's going on?" Li Fan asked. Yes, after just inspecting it, Li Fan found that the creature in front of him, with the body of a human and the claws of a dog, was not a demonic beast, but a human. It's just that it had been grafted with the limbs of a dog. Chapter 276, The Flawless Mr. Bai. The 5 children looked at each other. In the end, a small boy with slightly yellowed hair stepped forward timidly and said, "The dog was made like this by bad people. The wealthy families in the city all keep these human dogs. Human dogs are more obedient, smarter, and stronger than ordinary dogs. So, they are very popular. To transform into a human dog, they must undergo immortal techniques, which is extremely painful. If they can't bear it, they will lose their sanity and become crazy. Then, they will be abandoned to fend for themselves." Although the boy was young, he spoke clearly and logically. Immortal techniques. Li Fan snorted coldly. He couldn't detect any traces of spiritual energy at work on this dog. The dog's limbs and human torso were just crudely sewn together. The so-called immortal techniques were nothing more than excuses to fool mortals. If Senior Brother Zhang saw this, he would surely angrily denounce, "Devils and heretics, they must be eradicated. The dog is just a discarded defective product." If it weren't for Xiao Bai. The yellow-haired boy was speaking, but he was fiercely kicked from behind by someone. Brushing off his buttocks, he looked somewhat embarrassed. The boy quickly changed his tone and said, "If it weren't for Mr. Bai's intervention, I'm afraid the dog would have died long ago." Li Fan's expression changed. Mr. Bai. It seemed like he had heard of this person before in the fallen immortal realm. The blue crystal light in his sea of consciousness flowed, and in an instant, the relevant information was retrieved from deep within his memory. While obtaining Purple Heaven Soul Observation Technique, there was a fierce battle between Senior Brother Zhang and Song Yisong that left Ningyuan City in ruins. Afterwards, there suddenly appeared a group of beggar children around 10 years old, shouting amidst everyone's despair. They stirred up hope for survival among the people and organized rescues in an orderly manner. And they obeyed the orders of this Mr. Bai. Li Fan couldn't help but become interested and immediately asked, "Who is Mr. Bai?" As soon as Mr. Bai was mentioned, the yellow-haired boy became somewhat excited. He opened up and praised endlessly, "Mr. Bai is the best person in the world. He's also the most skilled doctor in the world. And he's also the most handsome person in the world." The children behind him also echoed one after another, "Mr. Bai is the gentlest person in the world. He's also the smartest person in the world. ... Listening to the children's overflowing praises, Li Fan couldn't help but find it a bit amusing. In the eyes of these children, perhaps this small Ningyuan city was the entire world. However, it could also be seen that this Mr. Bai seemed to be truly extraordinary, and he treated the children extremely well. Could such a person be the origin of this remnant space-time? Li Fan became interested. This Mr. Bai is truly remarkable. Can you introduce me to him? Li Fan asked with a smile. For a moment, all 5 children fell silent. They subconsciously took a step back, eyeing Li Fan with cautious eyes. It was as if Li Fan were a scheming villain plotting against them. Li Fan chuckled, "Don't be afraid of me. I am also a good person just like your Mr. Bai. I just want to meet him." The children exchanged glances again, and in the end, it was the yellow-haired boy who spoke up. "To be honest, we don't know where Mr. Bai lives. We live in a small temple east of the city, and Mr. Bai often comes to see us. If you want to meet Mr. Bai, you can wait at the temple." Li Fan narrowed his eyes and made a judgment. The yellow-haired boy wasn't lying. "Lead the way." Throwing over the still sleeping dog to a few people, Li Fan said in a deep voice. The yellow-haired boy took the dog and saw that he really was just asleep, breathing a deep sigh of relief. Having confirmed that Li Fan wasn't a big villain, he was truly relieved. So, under their guidance, Li Fan arrived at a small temple in the east of Ningyuan City. It seemed to be an abandoned temple. The stone statue enshrined inside was already broken and only a small remnant remained. There were more than 10 children, both boys and girls, similarly dragged in rags in the temple. Although they were all relatively thin and weak, each of them seemed spirited, with a glint in their eyes. Seeing the yellow-haired boy and the other 4 return, they surrounded them. Everyone was talking at once. "Luya, who is this uncle? Why did you come back empty-handed? Didn't you get any food this time? The dog, what happened to the dog?" The yellow-haired Luya then explained to everyone. Li Fan also understood why Luya and the other 4 were inexplicably following him. It was simply because they found him unfamiliar and thought he was an outsider who could give them some money for food. There were more than one group like Luya's. Some of them hadn't returned yet. The children in the temple eyed Li Fan with vigilance and curiosity, but none of them came forward to strike up a conversation. Li Fan couldn't be bothered to argue with a group of kids, so he just stayed inside, waiting for Mr. Bai. If things went as expected, when senior brother Zhang started to act and Ningyuan City turned into ruins under the hands of the 2 cultivators, Mr. Bai would appear. After half a day passed, Li Fan saw that the time was about right, so he sent a message to senior brother Zhang. "Be careful of Steward Song." Then he waited quietly for what would follow. Sure enough, not long after, senior brother Zhang's thunderous shout echoed over Ningyuan City. "Evil demons, you're seeking death." Purple thunder, representing majestic divine might, resounded in the sky. "Fellow Taoists, hurry and take action." This was Chu Liang's voice. The battle erupted once again. Knowing senior brother Zhang's strength, Li Fan didn't pay too much attention this time. Instead, he watched the performance of the children in the temple with interest. Quick, hide in the cellar." Seeing the strange scene in the sky, Luya's face turned pale as he commanded repeatedly. The children seemed extremely skilled at seeking refuge. They pushed aside the half-broken stone statue, revealing an opening. In an orderly manner, they hurriedly entered. "Uncle, you should come and hide too." When only Luya was left in the temple, he turned back and looked at Li Fan, saying, "There are immortals fighting outside, it's too dangerous." Li Fan smiled faintly, "Don't worry about me, you should go and take shelter yourself first." After hesitating for a moment, Luya nodded, and then his small figure disappeared into the hole. The stone statue slowly returned to its original position, covering the opening. Only then did Li Fan slowly walk up to the stone statue, showing a strange expression. When the group of children pushed aside the stone statue and revealed the hidden chamber below, Li Fan was suddenly surprised. "Interesting, this seemingly ordinary stone statue can actually block my divine sense." Slowly touching the somewhat aged stone statue, spiritual energy surged within him. Chapter 277, Xuantian Temple. However, the spiritual energy that left his body seemed to encounter a dam, and it was all blocked outside the stone statue. Like an insulator for spiritual energy and spiritual consciousness, all of Li Fan's conventional means couldn't probe the stone statue. "Interesting, I wonder what kind of material it is." Li Fan summoned a water blade and controlled it to swiftly cut towards the stone statue. Let alone an ordinary stone, even if it was refined steel, it would be split in half by this water blade. But on the contrary, the water blade couldn't affect this damaged stone statue in the slightest. The moment it touched it, the spiritual energy maintaining the power of the water blade scattered. Apart from washing the stone statue, it didn't cause any damage. What a precious treasure. It's a pity there are too few pieces, and I can't take them back to reality. Otherwise, it could be used to create an absolutely safe secret chamber. Li Fan imagined the various wonderful uses of this unknown stone material and couldn't help but feel a bit regretful. Suddenly, Li Fan's heart stirred, and he found a piece of stone on the ground nearby. Using it as a tool, he forcibly knocked off another fragment from the stone statue. Then, he fiercely stabbed this fragment into his arm. Blood immediately flowed out. Li Fan frowned slightly. The spiritual energy circulating to the wound caused by the fragment couldn't operate freely. It needed to detour around it, greatly reducing efficiency. The fragment was still stuck in his body, and if not removed, the wound couldn't be healed with spiritual energy. After contemplating for a moment, Li Fan reluctantly extracted the fragment. He held it in his hand and examined it. Perhaps, I can defeat senior brother Zhang without resorting to slowly exhausting him to death. He contemplated inwardly. While Li Fan was studying this mysterious stone statue, the battle in the sky had reached a fierce stage. Song He-song revealed his true colors, besieging Jiang Qinmo along with Chu Liang and the others. The aftermath of the battle between them brought destruction to Ningyuan city below. Houses collapsed, and countless mortals died inexplicably. However, on the side of the small temple, with Li Fan's intervention, no danger occurred. Even if it weren't for me, with the existence of this dilapidated stone statue, these children should be fine. No wonder after the great battle ended, they were still lively enough to come out and organize relief efforts. Li Fan thought to himself. The battle continued according to the predetermined script. Song He-song was at a disadvantage, and he slammed their hands towards Ningyuan city. In an instant, countless mortals were injured or killed. Their surging blood-colored aura formed the sentient soul refinement formation, imprisoning Jiang Qinmo. Song He-song, unrelenting, followed with several consecutive strikes. As golden core cultivators, each strike took the lives of tens of thousands of mortals. One of the strikes happened to be aimed in the direction of the small temple. Li Fan's eyes flickered slightly as he withdrew his protection and swiftly dodged behind the remaining stone statue. When the strike hit the stone statue, it had no effect and dissipated into nothingness. Except for the area blocked by the stone statue, everything else turned into ruins. It was as if there was a vacuum of spiritual energy, and it didn't arouse any suspicion from Song He-song. Li Fan stood up from behind the stone statue and casually cleaned up the surrounding ruins. He continued to watch the battle in the sky. When Jiang Qinmo broke through and entered the purple core state, Li Fan thought for a moment, then pushed aside the stone statue and entered the underground chamber. The children in the secret chamber were initially nervous when someone entered. But after seeing it was Li Fan, the good person, they breathed a sigh of relief. It's better to come in and take shelter. It's too scary outside. Li Fan shook his head and sighed. Luya grinned and didn't say much, just greeting Li Fan and gesturing for him to sit down. The underground chamber wasn't large, but it was enough for everyone to take shelter. Inside, there were also some water and food supplies. Apparently, it was often used as a refuge. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Fan chatted casually with the yellow-haired Luya. He learned that this temple was originally called the Xuantian Temple. The underground chamber was also discovered by them by chance. As for who was worshipped there, they had no idea because it had been abandoned for many years. Luya was even less clear about where the missing half of the stone statue had gone. Just then, a little girl nearby interjected, I know. It's at Mr. Bai's house. When Mr. Bai took me back to cure my illness last time, I saw it. There's half of a body stuck there with no face, it's really scary. Luya was taken aback, you know where Mr. Bai's house is? Then why did you say you didn't know when I asked you last time? The little girl blushed and gave Luya a look, I've been there, but I was sick and confused, so I didn't remember how to get there. Mr. Bai, listening to the conversation between the two children, Li Fan pondered. Above Ningyuan city, Jiang Qinmo, who had killed all his assailants, hurriedly searched for the whereabouts of his junior brother, who had issued a warning for him. However, despite searching Ningyuan City multiple times with his spiritual consciousness, he couldn't find his junior brother. Thinking that his junior brother had met a tragic fate, Zhang Qinmo felt remorse in his heart. Undeterred, he searched several more times, hoping to at least find his junior brother's body. However, he still found nothing. Zhang Qinmo had no choice but to take a longevity fruit alone and leave Ningyuan City in deep sorrow. Shortly after he left, a petite figure cautiously emerged from the ruins of the small temple. After observing carefully for a long time, she finally shouted boldly, "It's safe now, come out." Immediately after, Li Fan followed a group of children as they emerged from the underground chamber. The children looked at Ningyuan City, now a wasteland with corpses strewn about, feeling somewhat lost. However, being orphans who survived alone outside, their psychological endurance was quite strong. Surprisingly, Li Fan didn't see fear or apprehension in their eyes. They were just a little lost and didn't know what to do for a moment. This Mr. Bai should be coming soon. At this point, there were no more cultivators left in the city except for him, so Li Fan had no reservations. He immediately used his spiritual consciousness to search for the trace of Mr. Bai among the survivors. He should be easy to find by following the description given by the children. A young, gentle, extremely handsome, and weak scholar. But Li Fan's expression changed slightly. He didn't find a matching individual. Li Fan searched several more times, but the result remained the same. Could it be that the children's description of extremely handsome is just their glorification? Li Fan couldn't help but speculate. With no other choice, he could only wait for Mr. Bai to arrive at the small temple. However, what surprised Li Fan was that even after waiting until the duration of this immortal falling realm ended, he still hadn't seen this Mr. Bai. As the surroundings became hazy, when Li Fan was about to leave the immortal falling realm, he faintly heard the excited shouts of the children, "Xiao Bai! Xiao Bai is here! Mr. Bai! Mr. Bai!" Li Fan suddenly turned his head to look, but he only vaguely saw a blurry figure. Chapter 278, Chao Yuan Sect Mutations. Just as Li Fan managed to see the excited children surrounding a slender figure in green clothes, he was forced to leave the fallen immortal realm. After a moment of dizziness, Li Fan returned to the real world. "Mr. Bai, are you the owner of this space-time?" Although this expedition yielded no practical results, Li Fan at least confirmed one thing. This Mr. Bai was peculiar. In the remnant space-time, if there was no interference from Li Fan, events should unfold in a fixed manner each time. Based on previous experiences, Mr. Bai should have visited the small temple shortly after the end of the great battle to see the children. But this time, he coincidentally arrived just as I was about to leave. Li Fan didn't believe this was a simple coincidence. This Mr. Bai was deliberately avoiding him. Or perhaps, for some special reason, Li Fan couldn't see him. Just like how Li Fan couldn't leave Ningyuan City. It seemed to be a specific rule of the entire space-time of Ningyuan City. Setting aside the reasons for such rules, based on this analysis, there was a high probability that Mr. Bai was the owner of the space-time. So, the question arose, what was Mr. Bai's obsession? Li Fan thought of the children's praise for him as the best person in the world. Furthermore, he actively organized rescues and treated the wounded. After the Great Battle, the scene of Ningyuan City, which resembled a post-apocalyptic world with corpses everywhere, involuntarily appeared before Li Fan's eyes. His homeland was almost turned into a dead zone due to the cultivators' battle. If this cruel scene had never occurred, it would have been much better. Is this your obsession? Li Fan pondered. Although there might be other possibilities, based on the character profile of Mr. Bai established from the current known clues, this was the most probable one. Attempting to resolve the event of Ningyuan City by obtaining longevity fruits without harming mortals. It's a bit challenging. Having speculated on the outcome, the next step was to figure out a way to verify it. However, achieving this goal seemed more difficult than simply defeating senior brother Zhang. Not to mention senior brother Zhang's invincible might, just capturing Song Yisong, who was in the mid-golden core stage, without involving mortals was not an easy task. It's fortunate that I have the insect binding technique as a backup. Let's try a few methods first. If it doesn't work out, I'll deal with this matter after reaching the golden core stage. In any case, seeing hope of escaping from Ningyuan City, the slight delay in time didn't matter much to Li Fan. After silently formulating the action plan for the next entry into the fallen immortal realm in his mind, Li Fan recalled the extraordinary stone in the small temple. He immediately searched for it in the Tianquan mirror. It wasn't something too secretive, so he easily found relevant information. Absolute Immortal Stone was the term used by cultivators for this type of stone. Its effects were the same as those Li Fan had discovered. It could isolate all spiritual power and consciousness probes. In ancient times, it was commonly used to build secret chambers, carve stone statues, or make stone nails to imprison prisoners. The absolute immortal stone nails were paired with a method called immortal spirit sealing. By piercing dozens of fixed acupoints in the body with absolute immortal stone nails, it could block the circulation of spiritual energy within the body and seal all cultivation realms. However, as time passed, the number of absolute immortal stones in existence decreased, and it was now rare to come across them. There's still some remaining absolute immortal stone in the small temple, just enough to make a set of stone nails. Li Fan immediately spent contribution points to purchase the immortal spirit sealing technique and kept it in mind. In the 25th year, shortly after Li Fan entered seclusion again, news spread from Jushan Prefecture, once again attracting the attention of cultivators across the world. The mysterious Chaoyuan sect ruins, which had never been thoroughly explored, had recently undergone strange changes. At first, within the empty ruins of the sect, occasional shadowy figures would appear, moving back and forth. When the cultivators arrived to investigate, the figures would suddenly disappear. Gradually, the frequency of these appearances increased, and the duration of their stay also lengthened. Eventually, cultivators could even hear the voices of these figures conversing with each other. Apart from being intangible and without physical presence, these shadowy figures were almost indistinguishable from real people. They seemed unaware of the presence of real cultivators and behaved as if living in their own time and space, undisturbed. What caused a sensation, however, was when a cultivator happened to encounter an image of a disciple of the Chaoyuan sect reciting the heavenly light building yang technique. Overjoyed, the cultivator memorized the entire technique. Although it was only a qi condensation technique, the significance of this event was extraordinary because it implied the possibility of obtaining other higher-level techniques. Even if there were no techniques, observing the ancient Chaoyuan sect disciples refining pills and crafting weapons was akin to having free teachers for guidance. As a result, the Chaoyuan sect ruins, which had almost been deserted, became lively once again. Of course, the excitement belonged to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, and the Five Elders Association was not involved. The several soul transformation cultivators responsible for guarding the borders did not return for unknown reasons and remained stationed within Jushan Prefecture. The Tianquan Spirit Lock formation was activated as a permanent measure. Any Five Elders Association cultivator who entered would be immediately killed. The previously chaotic Jushan Prefecture, under such circumstances, gradually became peaceful. Meanwhile, on the deserted island in the Kongyun Sea, the people of Dali had a rare dispute. The cause of this dispute was the emergence of the changes in the Chaoyuan sect ruins. When the fatty Yi Feipeng went out, he learned of this from the conversations of passing cultivators. Upon returning to the deserted island, he casually mentioned the incident during conversations with others. Unexpectedly, Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo felt a mutual resonance upon hearing this. They both felt that their opportunity to form the Golden Core was likely within the Chaoyuan sect. Both of them had been stuck at the late foundation establishment stage for some time. The bottleneck was holding them back from advancing further. Additionally, they hadn't decided on which law to use to form their core. Now, with the opportunity seemingly within reach, they immediately entertained the idea of going to Jushan Prefecture. The journey there was long and fraught with danger. Xiao Heng, the nominal successor of the Immortal Revival Organization, naturally opposed this idea. Xiao Heng believed that with their aptitude, the bottleneck would only hinder them temporarily, not permanently. If they missed out on the opportunity of the Chaoyuan sect, there would be other chances to make up for it. However, venturing out with only a late foundation establishment cultivation level would be too dangerous, despite their exceptional talents and considerable combat strength. The gap between cultivation realms was too significant. It would be better to continue to lay low for a while longer, waiting until everyone had broken through to the Golden Core realm, and their abilities to protect themselves were greatly enhanced before going out together to seek opportunities. Chapter 279, Feipeng's Fortune. Xiao Heng's words were not without reason. However, it was impossible for Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo, who had finally sensed where their opportunities lay, to easily give up. Su Xiaomei, with her explosive temper, would not listen to anyone once she got worked up. And Zhang Haobo had even more reason. He had not embarked on the path of cultivation early, he was over 10 years older than the others from Dali, and had fallen significantly behind. Now, making him wait longer, who knew when the next opportunity would arise? It was known that on the path of cultivation, each step taken opened more directions. Zhang Haobo had fallen far behind in this aspect and didn't want to delay any longer. With a determined gaze, Zhang Haobo had obviously made up his mind. Xiao Heng was dumbfounded by his words and couldn't find a reason to refute them. He could only turn to Su Changyu, Yi Feipeng, and the others for help in persuading them. Yi Feipeng, with his carefree attitude, didn't care at all. Xiao Heng, don't worry about it. Think about it, I managed to escape from a nascent soul cultivator of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, back then. With their good fortune and cultivation level not inferior to mine, as long as they're cautious, what danger could they face? Su Changyu remained silent, not trying to block Su Xiaomei's journey. With her brother backing her up, Su Xiaomei became even more pleased with herself. She couldn't wait to set off immediately. Anxious, Xiao Heng hurriedly stopped her and persuaded her with all his might to hold off. He urged them to prepare thoroughly before heading to Jushan province. Looking at Su Xiaomei, who was glaring at him fiercely, Xiao Heng sighed inwardly, feeling helpless. He knew Su Xiaomei's temper well. It was almost certain that Su Xiaomei would get into conflicts the moment they encountered outsiders. If possible, Xiao Heng also wanted to go with them to protect them. However, after Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo left, the only ones left on the deserted island with some combat power were Xiao Heng and Yi Feipeng. Yi Feipeng was often secretive and unreliable, frequently going out. He couldn't be relied upon. If he also went with them, there would be no resistance left on the deserted island. Bringing Su Changyu and the others along for the adventure was even more unreliable. Even if they wanted to go, Xiao Heng couldn't agree to it. After some thought, Xiao Heng initiated a ritual and entered the White Bone Realm. He planned to seek help from Senior Skull and see if he could obtain some assistance. Li Fan was already aware of the situation on their side. He was also very interested in the situation regarding the Chaoyuan sect ruins in Jushan province. He took advantage of this opportunity to explore the truth. Through the altar, he sent over 2 random teleportation necklaces, a set of 10,000 Immortals formation flags, and 2 talismans. The teleportation necklaces and 10,000 Immortals formation flags were naturally for the 2 kids to use for survival. When it was time to reap the benefits, if they were unfortunately killed, Li Fan would suffer significant losses. As for the 2 so-called talismans, they were actually defensive artifacts engraved with the Soul Shock formation. Defense was secondary. The main purpose was to have Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo carry them as mediums to enhance Li Fan's perception. These items had to be prepared because Li Fan's perception with the formless killing intent had a distance limit. With his current late foundation establishment cultivation level, if the distance to the target exceeded the range of a province, the precision of his perception would shrink drastically and be severely affected. The Kong Yunxi and Jushan province were very far apart. When Li Fan and the others went to the Wanfa Chamber of Commerce to buy techniques previously, it took them almost half a year to arrive. With such a long distance, if there were no formations acting as a medium, Li Fan would almost be unable to perceive any images and could only lock onto the location from afar. Therefore, in order to know the situation of the 2 at any time, these talismans were necessary. With the formless killing intent monitoring in place, Li Fan could also intervene when necessary. Besides these few items, Li Fan also imparted the established Dao Anu technique to Xiao Heng. After all, the more Su Xiaomei and the others broke through, the more Li Fan would gain. After all, even He Zhenghao could achieve a 4-law golden core, although there was a certain element of luck involved. Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo should also form their core with at least 3 laws. Li Fan's calculations were quite accurate. With so much assistance suddenly received, Xiao Heng's blood surged, and he became somewhat excited. He repeatedly kowtowed in the direction where Senior Skull slept. Senior, by providing so many precious treasures this time, you must have foreseen the dangers ahead. I must also carefully instruct Xiaomei and the others. Xiao Heng contemplated silently, collected the items, exited the White Bone Realm, and distributed them to Su Xiaomei and Zhang Haobo. Then, he painstakingly reminded them again and again. Su Xiaomei shrugged and nodded in agreement. But her attention was focused on the newly acquired treasures, and she was somewhat pleased, quietly playing with them. Zhang Haobo put away the items first, then solemnly assured Xiao Heng. After all the preparations were made, another round of farewells ensued. The two of them, holding a map that Yi Feipeng had somehow obtained, set off in the direction of Jushan province. Two companions embarked on an unknown fate in pursuit of golden core. The remaining people, amidst reluctance and worry, were also inspired. I also need to hurry up and achieve golden core. When Xiaomei returns, she will surely be surprised, Xiao Heng resolved silently. The Yin sisters glanced at each other, then returned to the depths of the deserted island to practice diligently. Su Changyu looked towards the direction Su Xiaomei had left, his expression becoming more determined. Yi Feipeng didn't show much sadness. Instead, when he saw Xiao Heng return from the White Bone Realm with so many treasures, his eyes rolled around in excitement. After everyone had left, he followed suit and went to the White Bone Realm to plead. He tried to get some benefits from Senior Skull. Li Fan, who witnessed this scene, couldn't help but feel a bit amused and exasperated. Seeing the pitiful appearance of the fatty, if Li Fan hadn't been monitoring him all along, he would almost have been deceived by his excellent performance. In light of his earnest performance, Li Fan didn't ignore him this time. After some thought, Li Fan inscribed the Creation Forge art onto a jade slip and sent it to Yi Feipeng. A flash of white light appeared. Seeing the unexpected gain this time, Yi Feipeng was overjoyed. He jumped up and held the jade slip, eager to read it. The Creation Forge art, the domineering words that first appeared stunned him. His pupils contracted suddenly, and he instinctively put away the jade slip, looking around. After confirming that he was the only one in the White Bone Realm, Yi Feipeng eagerly examined the contents of the technique. After a while, he showed a strange expression. Just this. Feeling something was amiss, Yi Feipeng read through the technique several times again. No, the Creation Forge art sounds so mysterious, how can it be so rudimentary? Could it be that it's too profound, and I am not qualified enough to comprehend it? For a moment, the fatty fell into deep self-doubt. Chapter 280, Demonic Beast Creation Forge Art. After feeling lost, Yi Feipeng once again flipped through the Creation Forge art several times. Finally, he stared at the poem at the end of the technique, deep in thought. The Great Tao is inherently simple, creation is always impartial. When true techniques are passed down to the world, only the fated will comprehend. Murmuring the verses to himself, Yi Feipeng's eyes gradually brightened. I see, the so-called simplicity of the Great Tao. This Creation Forge art looks so rudimentary, but if one underestimates it, that would be a grave mistake. The fatty regained his confidence. The Immortal Revival Organization has existed since ancient times. Although it has declined nowadays, its foundation is still profound. How could its treasures be comparable to ordinary goods? Creation. Obtaining this technique is truly my good fortune. With excitement in his heart, the fatty crushed the jade slip, exited the White Bone Realm, and hurriedly rushed into a trench near the deserted island to practice according to the method in the Creation Forge art. Activating the hidden potential within the body. Yi Feipeng closed his eyes, silently sensing the potential hidden within his body. In an instant, he seemed to fall into a state of slumber, and the fluctuations of his breath subsided. In this way, more than a month passed. One day, a faint blush suddenly appeared on Yi Feipeng's face. Above his head, the shadow of a kunpeng also appeared at the same time, emitting a loud cry. PFF'd. A mouthful of blood was spurted out, and brown wings suddenly spread out behind him. It was as if a tremendous energy had suddenly appeared within his body. It surged continuously, and wherever it passed, huge bulges appeared on the surface of his skin. It looked as if a tumor was constantly moving around on his body. But Yi Feipeng's face showed not shock but joy. This hidden potential is truly extraordinary. I thought I had already fully developed all the potential of the Kunpeng bloodline. I didn't expect that there's still a long way to go. Just as Yi Feipeng was caught up in excitement, a vast and boundless force suddenly surged within his body. As if he was hit hard, the fatty spat out another mouthful of blood. Calling too much potential at once is a bit hard to bear. His body had been deformed by the impact of this huge force, and Yi Feipeng's face suddenly became serious. I need to quickly refine this power. The body is a furnace of creation, hidden potential is charcoal, and all things are copper. Recalling the key points of the technique, a gleam of light flashed in Yi Feipeng's eyes. His fat and somewhat deformed body suddenly heated up visibly. Boom! A rumble like a giant hammer echoed faintly from within his body. The moment the sound rang out, Yi Feipeng's body couldn't help but tremble violently. However, the bulges that had been constantly moving around his body seemed to diminish slightly because of this violent strike. Although it was not very obvious, Yi Feipeng could clearly feel the changes in his body. Good. Again, a look of confirmation flashed in his eyes. Another strike. Under the continuous pounding, the masses of power were gradually absorbed by Yi Feipeng's body. The strength of his physical body was once again enhanced. In a short period of time, it had increased by about 10%. Just as Yi Feipeng was ecstatic about this change, his body emitted a scorching light like a furnace. However, due to overload, fine cracks began appearing on it. It seemed as if his body was about to collapse at any moment. Yi Feipeng's face changed suddenly. However, before he could react, a hint of blue light suddenly burst from his dantian. The deep blue color traversed through the crimson light, seemingly having its own consciousness, continuously repairing Yi Feipeng's injuries. At the same time, countless small blue particles surged from the sea area near the trench, rushing towards Yi Feipeng one after another. This support wasn't only water attribute spiritual energy. It also contained pure life energy. Nourished by this, the fatty's furnace body stabilized once again. Wonderful. The technique once said that the process of tempering the body cannot be rushed. Otherwise, it will harm oneself. It seems that because I called upon too much hidden potential, my first cultivation was too hasty. My body is overworked, and feels a bit depleted. But I didn't expect the Kanghai Pearl to actually repair my physical injuries. If that's the case, does it mean? The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. The sound of the hammer's tempering resurfaced. Having tasted success, Yi Feipeng couldn't wait to continue practicing. In the Tianquan mirror, Li Fan, who watched the entire process from beginning to end, couldn't help but sigh. So, this is the potential of the Kunpeng bloodline. The physical strength of ancient demonic beasts is indeed beyond comparison to humans. Li Fan gave Yi Feipeng the creation forge art, with a bit of an experimental mindset. He wanted to see if any changes would occur when combining the method of harnessing the body's hidden potential with the demonic beast bloodline. The result was somewhat unexpected even to Li Fan. Perhaps because the physique of demonic beasts inherently exceeded that of ordinary humans, Yi Feipeng's tolerance for the tempering of the creation forge art was much stronger than Li Fan's clone. When the clone cultivated the creation forge art, it had to cautiously mobilize a small amount of hidden potential to strengthen the physical body. Only after the body reached a certain level of strength could the tempering begin. But for Yi Feipeng, this step of strengthening was directly omitted. Or rather, he was simultaneously strengthening his body while tempering it. The risk was great, but the effect was much stronger. However, Li Fan couldn't imitate it. If he forcibly did so, the result would be that his body would be unable to withstand the tempering and would directly break apart, leading to his death. Yi Feipeng could do this only through both the powerful physique brought by the demonic beast bloodline and the help of the Kanghai Pearl. That pure life energy was also a great supplement for the Kunpeng. I didn't expect you to also have healing capabilities. You're treating him like your own son. Li Fan snorted coldly in his heart. When he built the foundation with the Kanghai Pearl back then, he never enjoyed such treatment. Regardless of what Li Fan thought, it didn't affect Yi Feipeng's cultivation progress. Without worrying about injuring his body, he could recklessly conduct physical tempering. After another month, Yi Feipeng completely absorbed the hidden potential he had previously called upon. His originally obese body, under the repeated tempering, gradually became lean. When he became as thin as a rake, several strands of hidden potential surged forth once again. His body inflated like a balloon. Hammering sounded out once again, and Yi Feipeng's strength soared rapidly during this cycle.